Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, Salam Kebajikan. English Education's Department, Faculty of Teacher Training and Education's Universitas Jember proudly present international webinar entitled Utilizing Technology to Empower Teacher Candidate in the Classroom. The Honorable Speaker, Dr. Willy Arinandia from Nanyang Technological University. The Honorable Speaker, Dr. Gumawang Jati from Institut Teknologi Bandung. And the Honorable Speaker, Dr. Vinita Dewi from Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia. And the outstanding audiences, thank you very much for your coming. All right, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, we go on the first agenda. Sing National Anthem and Hymn of Universitas Jember. For the committee, please help us.
Jangan melorot sih, Nak.
Thank you. And the next agenda is opening remarks from the first Vice Dean, Faculty of Teacher Training and Educations, Universitas Jember. To Bapak Nuriman, PhD, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for the time. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. All praise and thanks be to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the head that has bestowed upon us today. On this auspicious occasion, I would like to extend my warm welcome to all of you for the webinar program today, which is conducted by Study Program of English, with a special topic on utilizing technology to empower teacher candidates in the classroom. But before start, I would like to, on behalf of the Faculty of Teacher Training and Education, I would like to welcome to our respective speakers today. First, the Honorable Dr. Willy A. Rinandi from NIE Nanyang Technology University.
Morning.
Welcome to Indonesia and thank you very much for joining us, Dr. Rinandi. I'm sorry, my word is not correct.
Renandia, Pak.
Rinandia, okay.
Thank you, Pak.
Thank you very much. And the Honorable Dr. Gunawang Jati from Institute of Technology Bandung, which is not joined us yet today. And Dr. Vinita Devi from Indonesia Education University. Welcome to this event and thank you for joining us. Today, I think the study program of English has responded the program from the Ministry of Education, Culture and Research and Technology, especially on development of science and technology. As we know that we always be conduct to always support the development and technology itself, especially on teaching and learning process in the classroom. The development and science and technology itself, especially essentially, actually are aimed to improve or to increase the welfare of the community in Indonesia. As we know that the technology is one of the important factors to make contribution to improve the effectiveness, quality of teaching and learning process, and also to empower the competitiveness of a nation like Indonesia. Maybe at the moment several questions come into our mind. Why we have to use this kind of technology? Why? And how to use this kind of technology in a learning teaching process? And also we always thinking what is the benefit or what is the advantages using technology itself in the learning and teaching process compared with face-to-face interaction. And sometimes also we still thinking how to sustain our lesson completely with the program of teaching and learning by using this kind of technology. And in my mind, my last question on my mind is how to improve the interaction among the student in the classroom by using this kind of technology. And maybe a lot of question, a lot of problem, and many more problem that's appear on our mind. coming today. So I would like to say this is our good time to discuss with our expert speakers in this webinar. Because of this reason, on behalf of Faculty of Teacher Training and Education, I would like to declare to open this event by reading Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Finally, in our short time, I would like to thank for your attention and hopefully you enjoy this event until finish. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much to Bapak Nuriman for the speech. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we go on. The next agenda is praying, and this session will be led by Junio.
Okay, ma'am.
All right. Junio, the time is yours.
Okay, thank you, MC. Dear God, thank you for your great love and blessing over our life. Thank you that your favor has no end, but it lasts for our entire lifetime. Forgive us for sometimes forgetting that you are intimately acquainted with all of our ways, that you know what concern us, and you cover us as with a shield. We ask for your guidance so that we might walk fully in your blessing and goodness today. We ask that your face would shine on us. Thank you would open the right doors for our lives and for our loved one, that you would close the wrong doors and protect us from those we need to walk away from. Establish the work of our hands and bring to fulfillment all that you have given us to do in this day. We pray that you would make our way purposeful and our footsteps firm out of your goodness and love. Give us a heart and wisdom to hear your voice and make us strong by your huge favor and grace. We ask for all this in your name. Amen.
Amin. Thank you, Junio. All right, Bapak, Ibu, and ladies and gentlemen, this is the end of opening ceremony of our webinar, and we go on the main agenda with the first speakers, Bapak Dr. Willy Rinandia, and the sessions will be led by Pak David. Pak David? Pak David?
Yes, Bu Eda. Can you hear my voice?
Are you with us?
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so, okay. The time is yours, Pak David.
All right, okay. Thank you so much, Bu Eda. And again, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And good morning, Bapak Ibu. Good morning again, Pak Willy Rinandia.
Morning.
How are you today, sir?
Good. Excellent.
Right, okay. Very glad to hear that. Well, okay. Again, today we are going to have another special occasions for sharing and learning from our inspirational speaker, Dr. Willy Rinandia. And again, as on behalf of the committee, we are so honored and also excited to have you here. And of course, with Pak Bawjati and also Ibu Vidita, to have all of you here sharing your expertise and experiences in the online language teaching practices. Well, again, Bapak Ibu, as usual, before we proceed to the presentation, please allow me to read the curriculum vitae of our first keynote speaker. Right, so Dr. Willy Rinandia achieved his BA in teaching English as a foreign language in 1977 at IKIP Sarada Dharma, Yogyakarta, Indonesia. And then he furthered his study with focus on MA again in teaching English as a foreign language in 1982 at IKIP Sarada Dharma, Yogyakarta, Indonesia. And then he achieved another MA, still focusing on teaching English as a second language. This time is from the University of Hawaii in USA. And then eventually he achieved his PhD, which specifically focused on educational psychology in 1993 from the University of Wisconsin in USA. And then with regard to his recent interests, well, as you can see, probably you have searched his name online. There are lots and lots of research topics that have been covered by Pak Willy, most of the time we can see some research articles focusing on language learning pedagogy, reading and writing pedagogy, extensive reading and listening, the comprehension theories and second language acquisitions, and also instructional strategies in multicultural societies. And just to let you know, Pak Willy has been involved as a principal lecturer at National Institute of Education, Nanyang Technological University, Singapore, since 2017 after today. And then with that kind of extensive teaching and also researching expertise, it is no doubt that we can find that on Google Scholar, he has over 9,000 citations, which is, extremely outstanding. And in addition to his expertise in teaching, he also has taken part as a journal editor for Guidelines, Siam Urel, Singapore. And then at the moment, he has also been involved as one of the reviewers for TEFLIN. And then also, he has taken part as journal reviewer from some reputable journals, some of which include Guidelines, TEFLIN, and then Royal Journal, Journal of Asia TEFL, and also TEFL Quarterly. Right, okay. Another point that we would like to inform you is the procedure for today's sessions, because usually we are going to have like 40 and probably like 45 minutes of presentation, and then we're going to have like 15 minutes of QA. But this time, Pak Willy is going to have like probably like 30 minutes presentation, and then we are going to have a 30-minute QA or discussions or sharing sessions, meaning we are going to have a lot more time for discussion and QA with all of the audience. Is it going to be okay, Pak Willy?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, okay.
Yes, only easy questions for me. Difficult questions for Gumawang Jati and Vinita Devi.
All right, sir. Okay. Well, okay. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, please welcome Dr. Willy Renandia. To you, sir.
Thank you, Pak David, and also thank you, Pak Nuriman. Thank you for the opening remark, and Ibu Eka, Ibu Areta, Ibu Bilkis. Where is Ibu Bilkis? She seems to be everywhere. I saw her yesterday, and I am seeing her today. She is very mobile, and today is very special because I will be presenting together with Gumawang Jati, my adik kelas, no, kakak kelas, yes, from IKIP Sanata Dharma, and also with Vinita Devi. Vinita Devi is way adik kelas. She is much younger. I'm very happy to see a familiar face here in the audience, Bapak Supriyusman, Dr. Supriyusman. I think I haven't met him for more than 20 years. It must have been like 25 years ago that I met him in Singapore. He was doing his diploma studies at CMU RLC. That was a long time ago. How are you, Pak? Ladies and gentlemen, this week is very special. Let me just, say something about this week. Today is Singapore's National Day, Independence Day, and later this week, it's Indonesia's Independence Day, big celebration for Indonesia. I think we should be thankful for the great achievement that we have had for the past, 8 years, and hopefully more prosperity for the nation. And later this month, Malaysia. So this month alone, there will be 3 countries in the region, our neighboring countries, that will be celebrating their national days. So I think we need to be thankful of that. Ladies and gentlemen, what I'm going to do today is to share with you a few things that are really important for us to know when we try to use technology in our teaching. If you look at my title, I think you will notice that teaching is big font, technology is smaller. I think I'm doing that on purpose because at the end of the day, technology is a tool that a teacher will need to make use of skillfully, efficiently, and effectively in the classroom. So that is something that we all need to remember. Technology is important. Technology is going to stay with us for many years to come, but technology is something that will have to serve us, the teachers. It's not the other way around. Yeah, that's why the presentation today is more about teaching and how we can further improve on our teaching by using technology that is widely available today. The most important takeaway is this. I always do this in my presentation. 1 point or 2 points that are important for us to remember is this. Point number 1, the best way to get our students to learn more is to enhance the quality of our teaching. That is the most important thing, yeah? The best way to help our students to learn more with us in the classroom and outside the classroom is for us to improve the quality of our teaching. And point number 2, we can do this with the help of technology. Let me say that again carefully. We can do this with the help of technology. But my presentation today actually is useful for you, whether you teach with technology, with or without technology. Yeah, the most important thing continues to be us and what we do in the classroom, and to what extent technology can be utilized efficiently in our teaching. My agenda today, I have 5 points that I want to share with you. The first one, very, very basic, very, very important, technology and the teacher, us, the user, the utilizer, the person who is using technology. Number 2, the link relationship between technology and teaching methodology. So that's the second point that is very important. The teacher, when you walk into the classroom, you'll be teaching, right? And the approaches, the teaching method that you use can be further enriched and enhanced using technology. The next point that is very important when we think about technology is how is it related to the choice of texts, the choice of materials, teaching materials that we're using in the classroom. I hope that makes sense, yeah? And the next thing, the next 2 things relate to the task, the activities, the things that you do with the students as a follow-up to the reading passages or listening or video materials that you've been using with your students. And finally, technology and assessment. Yeah. So remember, technology is there, but I think we need to continue to remember that it is the teacher that can make a big difference in terms of how we teach, in terms of how we can support our students' learning, and technology can indeed play a role in the process. Let's look at the first one. Ladies and gentlemen, please stay awake because I'm going to keep asking you questions so that we can think together with me throughout my presentation. The first one is technology and the teacher. Yeah. One big question that we need to ask, because for the past 2 or 3 years we've been using technology, is this question: are we tech savvy? I'm not thinking about teachers who can create, new programs, new applications, but teachers who know enough about educational tools that can be useful for your teaching. Tools, simple tools like PowerPoint slides, for example. Are you good at presenting information using PowerPoint, for example? What happens if you want to send PowerPoints to your students before they come to class? What happens if you want to turn your PowerPoint materials into e-learning materials? Very simple things like that. Are you skillful? Are you very familiar with how you can use tech tools in the classroom? Well, some of you may be asking, how many tech tools do we need? I think that is a question for Pak Gumawang Jati and Vinita Dewi to respond to. If you ask me, 5 is more than enough. 5, no more than that. If you know more, that's okay. But 5 is like basic technological tools that you may need to use for teaching, whether it's on-site, blended, or online learning. Yeah. So it's a matter of knowing a small number of tech tools that are useful for your teaching, and to what extent you can use this skillfully and efficiently. And number 3, whether and to what extent you can use these tech tools for assessment purposes. Later, I'll talk a bit more about assessment. So technology can be used for teaching, can help your students to be more engaged, can make your lesson more interactive, for example, but it can also be integrated in your lesson so that you can enjoy gaining information from your students in terms of whether and to what extent they have learned what they're supposed to be learning. So question number 1 is, are you tech savvy? Number 2, you can't just use technology in the classroom. You should also be using technology as as something that you do on a regular basis outside the classroom. Yeah. Do you have social media, for example? Are you responsible and critical users of information that is nowadays widely, freely available? When you post messages on your social media, are you spreading false information, for example? Are you spreading rumors? Or are you sending messages to people about good things that we all should appreciate? Things like love, things like collaboration, things like kindness, things like respecting differences that we see every day in our life. Whether you are spreading hatred, intolerance, and things like that. That to me is very, very important. Even simple things like your name in social media. But David, are you using your real name in social media? Or are you using names like Naughty Boy from Jember or something like that? I mean, that tells you, because when you use social media, you are also projecting your identity as a responsible citizen and also as a professional teacher. So be very careful what you say and what you read from the internet. Are you using the internet or social media for professional purposes? And that is very important, because these days students are very familiar with things like weblog. Weblog is blog. Yeah, blogs have their own ways of conventions. Blogs have certain things that you can say and certain things that you cannot say, and these are things that is part of your learning, if you like. Do you know how to create YouTube videos, for example? Do you know how to edit YouTube videos for good purposes? Yeah. So digital users is an important part of your life as a person and also as a teacher. But more importantly, you want to show your students that you are an active user, you are a responsible user, and you are a critical user of the digital technology. And the last bit is about this. And these days, we can get a lot of information. We can learn a lot by becoming a digital learner, because information is now available. You don't have to go to school, actually. You don't have to go to universities. You don't have to attend workshops, but you can do things on your own. Yeah, you can further develop your multimodal skills, your transmedia literacy skills, and many other skills. You simply have to learn how to do it, because the world is moving in that direction. Yeah, in terms of professional development, you can make use of the internet, the information that is available on websites to further develop your professionalism. I remember about 2 years ago, that was the time when pandemic first came to the world, and people are grappling. People were not very sure about how to use technology, including me. But then a group of people, colleagues from a university asked me to give a workshop on how to use technology in language learning or in teaching or in education. My first reaction was, no, I'm not good. I wasn't good. I did not know much about technology. So I asked Gumawang Jati if he could help. He said, sorry, Pak Willy, I'm so busy. There's so many requests for workshops and things like that. So what did I do? I decided to learn. I decided to self-learn how to use a number of tech tools, because today it's very, very easy. You just need to go to YouTube. Almost anything that you ever want to learn is available on YouTube. So I did spend like 10 hours or maybe 15 hours to prepare for my workshop on how to use technology in education. Just an example, yeah? So that's the technology part, technology and the teacher. The other part that is no less important is technology and teacher quality. At the end of the day, it's not the technology, but it's you as a teacher. Do you possess the quality of a good teacher? I have some examples here, and I would invite you to respond to questions like this. Are you a likable teacher? Can you give yourself a score from 1 to 10? 1 means you are not likable. Students don't want to be taught by you. Or 10 means you are a very likable teacher. You may be surprised why likable, because likability apparently is an extremely important aspect or characteristic of a good teacher. Reason, very simple. We learn from other people that we like. It's as simple as that. We make friends with people that we like, right? And there are many other examples. We live together with our spouses because we like them. So likability is so important because teaching is about relationship. Yeah, you're never alone. Other people there, the students, and that's the first thing that the students will find you, whether you are a likable person, a likable teacher, or not a likable teacher. So please respond in the chat box. Number 2, are you a passionate teacher? From 1 to 10. Yeah, there are many teachers who are very passionate about teaching, and there are also many teachers who are not very passionate about teaching. For them, it's just a job. It's my job. I teach, I get paid, I'm happy. My students are not happy. That's their problem, not my problem. Yeah, so being passionate is extremely important. And the students can tell immediately whether you're a passionate teacher or not. Again, from 1 to 10, please give yourself a score. I think for Gumawang Jati, you don't need to respond because I know the answer is all 10, 10, 10, 10, and 10. Number 3, are you a motivating teacher? Are you able to teach in such a way that the students will say something like, teacher, I want more. I want to learn more from you. Please tell me more. So being able to motivate students is an extremely important quality of a teacher. More. This one is another important consideration. Are you pedagogically competent? Do you have a number of approaches that you can use depending on the profile of your students and depending on their needs? I think this is the kind of things that initially you learn in school when you are doing your pre-service training, but this is something that you will further develop from experience, and more importantly, from observing your colleagues who are excellent teachers. Yeah, that's how you do it. You can observe, you can consult colleagues whom you think are the best teacher in your school or in your university. So pedagogically competent. Number 2, if you are an English language teacher, this is another important consideration. Are you linguistically competent? What is your level of proficiency? What is your knowledge about the structure of the language, about text, about discourse, about culturally relevant information related to language learning. Yeah, linguistically competent. And finally, whether and to what extent you are technologically competent. As I said early on, you need to know something about technology, and you need to know how to use it well for teaching purposes. So that is technology and teacher quality. Yeah. So I hope that makes sense to you. Remember, the key thing to remember is the teacher is number one. The teacher is the most important thing in the classroom. The teacher is the person who can make learning possible and optimal in the classroom. Okay, so I'm moving on to number 2, yeah? So the first part is the teacher. The second part is the way you teach, teaching methods or teaching approaches. I'm going to show you 2 pictures, and I want you to respond to this as quickly as possible. Which of the 2 images, in your opinion, is more student-oriented, is more student-friendly? This one or this one? Number 1 and number 2. Ibu Arita, please say it out loud. Ibu Arita, please say number 2. Yes, the answer is very straightforward, yeah, because there's a very strong contrast between number 1 and number 2. In number 1, it's one teacher talking, one-way street. In number 2, I think there is a lot of interaction that is happening. The teacher is not standing in front of the class. The teacher is actually mingling with the students in the middle of the classroom, and the students are looking at the picture, at the images on the screen, and the students are more likely to have a lot more interaction and discussion in the classroom. Yeah. So teaching and teaching methods. It's your choice whether you want to be teaching like the lady on the left-hand side or the teacher on the right-hand side. It's your choice, but if you ask me, I would go for the second one. Bapak, Ibu, ladies and gentlemen, I think you're familiar. You will agree with me that there are different approaches, different ways of teaching in the classroom. For some reason, the most popular, the most preferred way of teaching is the lecturing style. I think teachers tend to avoid the seminar style, inquiry style of teaching, where the students are allowed to do a lot of discussion, a lot of debate, a lot of exchange of ideas. Flipped classroom, you may have heard about this. That is an excellent way of increasing the quality of learning in the classroom. CL stands for cooperative learning or group work situation. Yep. If your teaching style is that of lecturing style, then I think we need to begin to consider other approaches or other methods of teaching. Yeah. The key word to remember is number 1, variety. You need to try out different ways of different approaches to teaching, and then find 1 or 2 that your students enjoy the most. Find 1 or 2 that you can help your students to learn a lot more in your classroom. Whatever it is, whatever approach, whatever methods you are using, please remember, your job as a teacher, your job as a language teacher in particular, is not to spend 1 whole hour talking, explaining things in the classroom. I think we should reduce the amount of talk. Yeah, if you don't reduce the amount of talk, then you are depriving your students of the opportunity to learn with you, with their peers, and with the help of technology. Yeah, teach less. That means 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes, and the rest of the time should be given to the students to explore, ideas, to find out for themselves what needs to be learned from the internet, for example. Yeah, that is one way of making the students or helping the students to learn more. So if you ask me this question, is kuliah ceramah okay or not okay? My answer is yes, it is okay, but I think all of you remember this. Yeah, I'm sure all of you know this. Tell me and I'll forget. If you lecture, the students listen, they understand, and then they forget. Show me and I may remember. Demonstrate. Involve me and I'll understand and I learn more. So the key thing to remember is to what extent you can involve your students, you can invite your students to participate in the learning game together with you and with the help of the other students, and also with the support of technology. Yeah. Now, even when you use the lecturing style, I think you use it sparingly. Number two, try to avoid monologic lecturing style. Instead, use the more dialogic style of teaching. After my presentation, I think Gumawang Jati will be presenting. Observe the way he is presenting. I think he is using what is known as dialogic style of presenting, dialogic style of teaching, if you like. And the last point to remember, bite size, small, 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 small. Do not spend 1 whole hour teaching or explaining things, but break it up into small size, bite-sized chunks that the students can digest, that the students can learn from you. So that's point number 2, yeah? Point number 3. I hope you remember the first one is technology and the teacher. Number 2 is technology and their teaching methodology. Number 3 is technology and the text. Remember, technology now, or the internet now, is a wonderful, amazing, amazing source of teaching materials. Text here stands for teaching materials. Teaching materials can be texts from websites and from other sources on the internet. Teaching materials or text here can be video materials or podcast materials or any other kind of materials. Even posters can be seen as an example of text teaching materials that you're using. Yeah. The most important thing, Bapak Ibu, to remember is this. I think you know this, and you will agree with this, that the text that you use, the teaching materials that you use will have to be very, very interesting. Not so much for you, but for your students. And that requires a lot of skill, a lot of experience from the teachers to choose just the right kind of teaching materials. Yeah, because that is the starting point for learning to happen. If the text is not interesting, the students will likely to switch off. Switch off means they will not be paying attention. And when that happens, they will not be learning very much from you. I think we are reminded of the importance of teaching materials that are, number one, very, very interesting. It's so compelling that the students want to find out more about it. The students get very excited. The students are willing to spend half an hour, maybe 1 hour in class, and maybe another hour outside the classroom. So that is because the materials are interesting. Yeah, it ignites their curiosity. Hey, teacher, the text is so interesting. I want to know more about this. Can you tell me where I can find more information about the topic that we are discussing today? But point number 2 is comprehensible. If you're a language teacher, you have to make sure that the content is interesting, but also the language is accessible. The language is easy to understand. If the language is difficult to understand, the students will just learn the content a little bit, but they will not be able to learn from the language aspect of the text. I hope that makes sense, yeah? So in other words, the content and the difficulty level of the text will have to be just right. Not too easy, not too hard, but really, really exciting for the students to learn, yeah? So let me say this again, contents are king. Contents are probably the most important thing that you can start to get your students to be interested and excited about the learning that happens in the classroom. So content, content, content. Where do we get information? Where do we get interesting content, teaching, learning materials? One source is TED. just a lot of information, a lot of contents that will get your students to be interested in learning. Yeah, here's just some example. If you are teaching ESP students, engineering students, for example, or science students, this might be of interest. Here is another one. Civil engineering students might find this really, really interesting. Business. These are just examples from TED, TED. There's a lot of information there. Here's something about psychology. Another one about psychology as well. Yeah, the point here is that technology, the internet, the digital world is there for you to use, is there for you to bring into the classroom so that the students get to enjoy much more interesting contents from your lesson. And today, a lot of the materials that are available on the internet are video-based. And here is a website that you might want to look at. And all these videos are freely accessible and freely downloadable as well. Yeah. So increasingly, if you've been using text-only materials, I think you should start considering using video materials. And nowadays, all these materials are available for free for educators to use. Yeah. Very important problem for us to resolve. Yes, the contents have to be interesting. The contents are interesting. This is what often happens. You find something on the internet, the contents are so interesting for you and your students, but the language may be too hard. What can we do? Remember, these two things must come in one package. The contents are interesting, but the language will have to be manageable, accessible. Yeah. So what do? David, if you find something interesting on the internet and you want to use it, but you, in the back of your mind, you're thinking, my students may not understand very well. What do? Can we use technology to solve this problem? Later, you can ask Gumawang Jati about this. But if you ask me, yes, there are tools that are available. Subtitles. Yeah. If the subtitles are still too difficult, use this. Or Google Translate, which means that you need to spend a bit more time preparing your students, giving students the text first, maybe simplify the text or even translate the text in the student's language. It doesn't matter before they watch the video. So technology can provide a very simple and very efficient solution to your students. Okay? Please remember this. If you are a language teacher, if you're an English language teacher, remember this. Students learn a lot of language when they see and when they hear a lot of interesting and accessible text. The key word here is a lot of reading, a lot of viewing, a lot of listening. Interesting text. Yeah, like these two girls on my slide. Yeah, like the many students in Singapore and elsewhere who spend a lot of time in the classroom. I think they are reading from books, but they can also reading from their gadgets as well. But the key thing to remember is language learning happens when the students see, when the students hear the language every day for 1 whole year, for 2 years, for 3 years. Okay. Next, I think I need another 10 minutes, David. So point number 1 is technology and the teacher. Yeah. Point number 2 is technology and teaching methodology. And point number 3 is technology and teaching materials, right? The next one is what you do with the materials. What kind of activities, what kind of tasks can you prepare so that the students become very engaged, so that the students get an opportunity to explore, to extend what they have learned from the text so that they learn more. That is the purpose of the task. Here. The kind of task that you should be thinking about is this, the kind of task that involves some problem solving. There are some problems, because problems are interesting. Problems make us think. Problems make us feel perplexed. Problems make your students become curious. They want to find out the solution to the problem. Yeah. So if you are able to find problem-solving tasks for your students to work on, I think chances are higher that your students will become more motivated. They'll become more self-determined. They want to learn, not because they have to, but they want to. Yeah. Now, the kind of problem-solving tasks that can encourage your students to read more and to learn more, I think that will be ideal. And the internet is a great source for that. In my teaching these days, I always give the students a task, and I ask them to explore the information from the internet to find out more about the problem and to find potential solution to the problem. Remember, the task must engage students in further exploration, elaboration by giving illustrations, examples, and so on and so forth. And the task should also provide opportunities for the students to self-evaluate. Have I learned? Is there anything that I haven't learned? Can I check with my classmates? Can I check with my teacher? So self-assessment is going on all the time. Yeah. Here is an example from my class. It's not a language skill class, but it's a language, is a teaching method class. So the name of the course is Language Teaching Methodology. It's about how to teach, basically, yeah, the theory and practice of language teaching. So my students are graduate students. I have 20 teachers in my class, around there, 20, 25 teachers, local teachers from Singapore, and also international teachers from Vietnam, some of them from India, and many of them from China. So I have a mixture of local and international students. Yeah, and let me share with you one lesson that I did. And I share with you how I integrate many of the things that I discussed early on with you about the importance of me speaking less, for example, about the importance of using texts and tasks that will help the students to explore, extend, and deepen their understanding. The design of my lesson is this. There is a before learning that happened, the during learning that happens in the classroom, and the after learning that happens after the lesson is over. The starting point is this, the learning outcome. Yeah, the learning outcome is this. I told my students that we'll be discussing the theory, the research on how to teach vocabulary, and why vocabulary is important, and what research tells us about the the role of vocabulary in language learning, right? And the learning outcome, or the task that I want them to work together with me, is this. At the end of the lesson, the students will put together a set of principles for teaching vocabulary. Yeah, so that's the final job, the task or the problem that the students will have to work with. Before the class, like 1 week before, I sent them something using a simple application called Wakelet. So this is where the students get information about the teaching of vocabulary. And this is also an opportunity for the students to start thinking, reading, comprehending, and discussing and interacting using this application called Wakelet. Yeah, Wakelet is very easy to use. Look at it later. And then during the lesson, a short lecture from me, again, very brief, not more than half an hour. And there's a lot of discussion and debate in the classroom. And then after I use a very simple application like Google Document for this Google Doc for the students to interact, to continue working on the topic further. So that is more or less the design of the lesson. So this is the before. So the 1 week before, I sent them information, reading literature on Wakelet, and the students read, tried to understand, and then they tried to respond to some of the questions that I posed in Wakelet. So here are some of the responses. You don't have to read this, it's very small, yeah? I'm just giving you an example of the kind of learning that happened before. The before thing is very, very important. This is known also as a flipped classroom. The flipped classroom is really, really wonderful because students do a lot of learning before they come to class. And during the classroom setting, the students deepen and extend what they have learned before they come to class, yeah? So here are some other examples, yeah. Okay. Remember, the before thing is very important. Now, during the lesson, as I said earlier, I give a very small lecture, pointing out, highlighting the key points from research about the teaching of vocabulary. And then I got the students to work in groups, and they have to contribute 1 or 2 principles for teaching vocabulary in Google Doc. So this is something very simple to use, but at the same time, very useful because it gets the students to think very carefully and to exchange ideas with the other students in the classroom. Do you remember how many students I have early on that I mentioned to you? I have about 20 students, yeah? 20 students, and they have to contribute 1 or 2 principles. Each one will have to contribute 1 or 2 principles in Google document. So how many principles do I have? At least 20 or maybe 30 principles, right? But those are raw principles, yeah, not the final principles. And this is the next step. I ask the students to have a debate. They have to present their opinions about which principles must stay and which principles must go. So there's a lot of healthy discussion going on during this part of the lesson. And finally, I have about 10 principles. My job there is a mediator or a facilitator. And after the lesson, I ask students to volunteer. Like 3 or 4 or 5 students to volunteer to put together the final list of principles, 10 or 12. And I ask students to edit the text in Google Docs. And I ask them to write a small introduction and a small conclusion. So the learning outcome is a piece of joint student papers with a small introduction and conclusion and a lot of discussion about the 10 principles for teaching vocabulary. I hope that makes sense to you, yeah? This one. And finally, their product is uploaded on Facebook for the world to see, and also in my website, Willis ELD Corner. It's available there. You can look at it if you want to. Students' work, yeah? So there's a lot of learning that happens before, during, and after. This is my final bit, but let me just repeat once again what we have just discussed together. Ibu Eka, I hope you remember. The first one is teach the technology and the teacher. Very important. That's the most important bit. Technology and teaching methodology. Yeah, these days you cannot use the lecturing style only. I think that's not the best way to approach to use in the classroom. And then technology and the text. The fourth one is the task. And the last one is the test. The word test nowadays is being replaced by the word assessment. In particular, the focus today is on assessment for learning. We assess our students more frequently. We assess our students more regularly, and our assessment tend to be small. So small, instead of just one big one at the end of the semester. And the purpose, very important. The goal, the purpose of this kind of assessment is to support learning. Not so much to test, but to support student learning. Well, of course, at the end of the day, we need to find out whether or not the students have learned from you, but assessment for learning is an important part of teaching, actually, because as you teach, you assess as well, so that the assessment information that you get can feed back to you and help you to improve on or to revise your teaching next time round you see your students. Quizlet is very often used in the classroom. Kahoot, for example, is an excellent way for you to integrate assessment for learning in the language classroom. Yeah, I think you are familiar with Quizlet. It's a freemium application, the free version. I think you can use the free version, and that's more than enough. But if you have money, or if you don't have money, ask Bu Eka, and Bu Eka will subscribe to Quizlet. It's a very nice application that you can use. Yeah. Mentimeter, I think is very useful for you to assess, to find out, at the same time to make your lesson more interesting. Yeah, you break up your lesson into bite-sized, small, and after each small segment of your lesson, you get the students to tell you to what extent they have learned, or to what extent they need to learn more about certain areas that are not very clear. Yeah, so the key thing to remember today is this, that we must think about how we can provide opportunities for our students to demonstrate to you their understanding, their learning using multiple, many different ways, not just one single way. Remember, the word multi is very important these days, because that is the reality of our students. Yeah, some students are good with language, verbally. Some students are not very good with language, but they are equally intelligent, they're equally smart. Maybe they can use drawing, maybe they can use some applications from the internet to demonstrate their learning, to demonstrate their understanding. Some students are very good with their body. Yeah, the gestures, dancing, for example, so they can show their understanding using role play or dramatization or things like that. The key thing to remember is assessment for learning means your attention is on your students. Help your students to express their comprehension or demonstrate their understanding or their learning in multiple different ways. This is just an example. If you Google this, you'll be able to find, like, wow, 50 different ways of checking, of assessing your students' comprehension. Yeah, and there are many other examples like this. So what I'm saying here is there are hundreds and hundreds of different ways, you know, in terms of how you can help your students to demonstrate their understanding using different ways. If you are looking for something simple, here is another one. Yeah, you can ask students to present, to demonstrate their understanding virtually using written language through this discussion, using technology, for example, podcast, Flipgrid, or any other applications, or kinesthetically using gestures, you know, using movements and things like that. The key thing is there are many different ways we can engage our students in learning and also in demonstrating their learning using multiple different ways. Remember this, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, technology is there to stay with us for many years to come. But the key thing is for us to focus more on the pedagogical aspect, on what we have known or what we have learned from many years of teaching. Yeah, if you add technology to that, I think you can just make your lesson more interesting and more useful for your students. But technology itself is not the most important thing where learning is concerned. It's how we use technology that is important. Yeah. So technology plus pedagogy, and that is a very happy marriage made in heaven. Slide terakhir, Bapak Ibu sekalian. This is my final slide. Remember this. The best way to get our students to learn more is to increase the quality of our teaching. The quality of our teaching. And we can do that with the help of technology. Thank you very much, Pak David. Thank you very much, for ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to make my slides available. We'll send this to you in the chat box very soon.
Well, okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Willie, for such a wonderful and inspirational presentations. Well, looking at your presentation and reflecting on what you have presented, I still remember, the first days during the pandemic where I did hours and hours of searching, for resources to improve our teaching, and still sometimes I found it quite difficult, to get students engaged during the class, and also even more after the class. Well, based on what I learned, well, it appears that some misconceptions need to be improved immediately to reach the marriage in heaven.
Yes.
Okay. Right. So again, Bapak Ibu, we still have like 20 minutes of discussion or QA sessions. So if you want to have some ideas to share or questions to raise, feel free to write those in the chat box, or you can also speak directly to your microphone.
Yes, please go ahead and turn on your audio. Easy questions for me and difficult questions for Gumawang Jati and Finita Devi, the other two speakers.
Dr. Willie, may I have a question?
Yes, please go ahead.
All right. So this question relates about how to balance a classroom culture between English club and English class, because back again, as teachers, considering the teachers are being pinched between curriculum target and passion to implement new pedagogical strategies. And how should teachers in here balance that kind of point between curriculum target and passion to implement new strategies in the short and long run? Should we focus on correcting the errors first, the error of the students? Should we focus on ensuring everyone do things correctly, or let students grow their English regardless of their minor and major mistakes? Because I can see somehow there's a dichotomized approach and view between the students and the teachers. If they hear English class, they somehow just, when they hear English club, they sound yay, something like that. So yeah, how to establish this? Because this question relates to the assessment time that has to be done, aside from the other administration thing that teachers should do. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's a lot of questions actually. But let me just pick up on one thing that you said about correcting students' mistakes, helping students to become more correct, more accurate in their pronunciation, in their use of the grammatical structures in the English language and things like that. There are two perspectives on this. Perspective number one is that correction helps. Perspective number two, this is from research that I've seen happening in the past 20 or 30 years or so. Perspective number two is corrections don't help very much. Both perspectives are very interesting. My perspective is this: some corrections are okay, but don't overdo it. Do not overdo it. Because most of the time, when you are correcting your students, do you think they will be making the effort to do a better job next time? The answer is some students do. The majority are not ready to move to that part of language learning where they can produce the language correctly. If you look at the research on written corrective feedback, in other words, correcting students' writing, what research has found is this. Number one, yes, the students' final draft improves. Are you happy with that? Of course, we are happy when the students, we look at their students' final draft and the final draft is better than the previous draft, we are happy. But if we ask the next question as to whether our corrections actually change the internal linguistic system of our students, the answer apparently is no. It doesn't change that. Yes, the final draft becomes better because the students are just following the corrections that you did. So the final draft was just correcting, the text based on the feedback that you provide to your students. But whether and to what extent your students' internal linguistic ability or writing ability actually improves as a result of your correction, I think the answer is probably not. Why is that? Because we know from research that language development, language improvement actually happens when you have seen a lot of text, when you have heard a lot of text over a period of time. So some teachers have suggested instead of spending time correcting our students, we should spend more time teaching our students. And by teaching, that means providing a lot of interesting materials so that the students can learn from the materials. Basically, I'm saying the students will have to do a lot of extensive reading. The students have to do a lot of extensive listening. And that is where your second question comes in, the English club, for example. Yeah, the English club should not just be a place where the students practice speaking. Yeah, if the students are not good in the first place, practice speaking will not help very much because there is not much that the students can say in the English language club. So the English speaking club should be accompanied by the reading club, literature circle, or whatever you call it. I like that term, literature circle. Basically, students read something before they meet in the club, in the conversation club, and then they share their thoughts. They share what they have learned from their reading in the speaking club. As to whether and to what extent we can keep a balance between what is in the curriculum and what is not in the curriculum, let me leave you with this question. It's a very good question for all of us to remember. What is our job? Is our job to cover the syllabus? Satu. Or is our job to help our students discover the syllabus? Silakan dipilih. Cover itu artinya apa ya, cover? Cover itu bisa berarti menyelesaikan atau berarti bisa menutup, menyembunyikan. Is that your job to cover the syllabus or to help your students to discover the syllabus? I think we should go for the second one. Our job is to help our students to discover, untuk menemukan, untuk mendapati, to find the syllabus. So that will be my response to your question, Patrick. Very good question. Always good to have you in the audience.
Thank you very much.
Yes, another question, please.
Yeah, okay, thank you so much to Mr. Sean for the questions. Yeah, I really like the idea of having the syllabus as a treasure that students and teachers have to reveal, sir. Because like most of the time as a teachers, we think that my job is to complete the syllabus. My job is to complete the whole lesson planning with specific assessment goals. But eventually, it turns out that kind of perspective tend to be stressful for both the teachers and students because learning is a measure of success or failure.
Yes, excellent point. Yeah, that's why I said again and again in my presentation, we should teach less. I think when we teach a lot in the classroom, what we are doing is we try to cover the syllabus. And that is very dangerous because students then don't get to see the syllabus. Yeah, you don't give students that opportunity to discover, to explore, to learn more beyond the curriculum, especially in a grammar-based curriculum where a certain number of grammatical features have to be taught to your students explicitly and systematically. I think that is something that we should try very, very hard to resist. Teaching grammar is very easy to do. And a lot of teachers enjoy teaching grammar because it's easy to see that, well, you are now in semester 5, I have covered this much grammar. but that doesn't really help your students to actually be able to use the language. Yeah, so help the students to discover, and the best way is to open up the learning space. I think Gumawang Jati will have a lot more to say about providing students with newer, broader learning space, and technology can be an excellent tool for that. Yeah, Ibu Bilkis, please, your question.
Today I'm not raising any hand.
You're not raising your hand.
Okay.
Because
Well, I guess
I've asked
we
lots
have
of
one.
questions before.
Right. Thank you, because so by the way, Pak Willy, we have like two audiences raising their hands.
Oh,
So
yes, please.
maybe we can go first with Ibu Nia Kurniawati.
Yes, Ibu
can you
Nia.
hear me, Ibu?
Okay, thank
Okay.
you for the opportunity. I'm Nia from Universitas Surya Kencana. So I think I've read your articles about the quality of free service teachers. I mean, like the institution that should be responsible for producing good quality of English teachers in Indonesian context. And is it, what is it? The responsibles of the like LPTK in Indonesia to produce techno-savvy teachers, and also with all the qualifications that you have mentioned, or it is back to the personality itself. When they graduate, they have to be where is it, a long life learner, something like that, in relation to technology.
Yes, yes, excellent question, Ibu Nia Kurniawati, Universitas Surya Kencana. Where is that located? Is it in Jember as well? Surya Kencana?
In Cianjur, Bapak.
Oh, in Cianjur. Okay, Jawa Barat. Yes, yes, excellent question. My answer to that is yes, it's the responsibility of the teacher education institution to prepare our graduates, to prepare our students, so that when they graduate, they become more prepared, they become sort of future ready, if you like. I think that is the theme that is currently being developed in my university, that we want our students to be future ready. The reason is that the future is not very clear at the moment. Again, because of technology, there will be major changes that cannot be predicted. And because of that, students will need to be prepared, and teacher educators will need to include a number of transversal skills for our students to acquire during their pre-service training. Transversal skills. Silakan di Google transversal skills. Transversal skills adalah skills yang dibutuhkan dan tidak terikat pada satu bidang keilmuan tertentu. Misalnya collaborative skill. Misalnya lifelong, attitudes towards learning, critical thinking, and many other skills that are important. Problem-solving skills, for example. I think problem-solving skill is very important. I think most of you had this problem 2 years ago when all of a sudden you had to teach, using technology. Yeah, many of you are successful in solving the problems because you have that ability to solve the problem. Some are not very successful, terutama yang usianya sama kira-kira seusia Mas Jati, yang rambutnya udah putih, itu agak susah biasanya. It's very difficult for them to make changes, to learn new things. Mas Jati is an exception. So problem solving, collaboration. Now, these are skills that are needed, how to work together in a team, and how to screen, how to access information, how to filter information, and how to manage information. Ini 3 hal yang luar biasa pentingnya for everyone. And we need to prepare our students for that. Number 1 is to access information. Access. Yeah, and there's a vast universe of knowledge out there. So access is one thing. Number 2 is to select, to filter information, because there's a lot of bad information and there's a lot of good information as well. The students need to learn how to critically evaluate information. And then ketiga adalah how to manage. Managing for storage, managing for retrieval as well. 20 years ago, you just need a CD, one single CD to store all the information that you have. But nowadays, that is no longer sufficient because we are looking at gigabytes of data. 10 years down the road, gigabyte is probably already a history. Maybe you are thinking about, individual people will have, a larger amount of information, and you need to manage it in such a way so that you can retrieve the information and you can turn the information into knowledge. Information and knowledge adalah dua hal yang berbeda. Information is raw. Knowledge is something that, has undergone a lot of processes, a lot of selecting, a lot of encoding, a lot of, you know what I mean. Knowledge and information are two different things. So, yes, sorry for the long answer, Ibu Nia. I think in addition to teaching the usual thing, like, how to speak, how to write in English, how to learn the English grammar and so on, we also need to add additional skills that the students need to learn in order to be prepared for the future. As I said early on, in my university, my school of education adalah a teacher education institution. The theme starting from last year, I think, is we want our students, our graduates to be future ready, because the future is very difficult to predict at the moment. So the best thing we can do is to equip students with transversal skills, the kind of skills that are applicable across the board. Problem solving, critical thinking, collaboration, and also the desire to continue learning, lifelong learning, life-wide learning, and life-wise and life-deep learning. Ngoten, Bapak Ibu sekalian.
Well, okay, thank you so much, sir, for the explanation. Yeah, I think, does it, when you say the transversal skills, does it also mean the 21st century education skills, sir?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay, right,
yeah,
right.
The big critical 21st century skills are applicable, basically, for your life at home, in the family, to help you deal with social problems, and also to help you deal with educational problems. Critical thinking, communication, collaboration, and creativity.
Right. Yes, exactly, sir.
And the last one is culture, very important, yeah. Cultural literacy as well. There's a very simple idea that my culture is not the best culture. I think that is something that we should start, believing that there are many other cultures out there, and we may not agree, we may not like other cultures, but we have to respect other cultures. We have to appreciate that people are different and people do things differently, and people say things differently. I think that will enrich our life. Instead of saying that my culture is the best, my Javanese culture is the best, it's not. Yeah.
Okay, right, exactly, sir. Well, I have seen some more participants raising their hands, but unfortunately we have only like 1 minute left, sir. But maybe we can have one last question, but really, would it be fine?
Please. Yes.
Okay, so our next lucky participant is going to be Mbak Sheila Anjarani. Can you hear us, Mbak Sheila?
Thank you. Thank you,
Hi.
Pak David. Good morning, Pak Willy.
Hi, morning.
Okay, so I'm Celia from Universitas Muhammadiyah Purwokerto, and I have a big question popping up on my mind after reading several papers discussing about pedagogy and technology. And some of them mention that we have to think about pedagogy first, while others think about technology first, and that's okay if we think about technology first, then we think about the pedagogy. I just want to know your opinion about this issue, Pak Willy. We should come first, in your opinion. Thank you.
Okay. I think it should be pedagogy first, but because the pedagogy bit will help you plan your lesson, will help you deliver your lesson, and will help you the extent to which you have been able to achieve your learning outcomes. So technology can be integrated to help with your planning, to help with the delivery, penyampaian dalam kelas. And the last one is to what extent you have been successful in your teaching. Technology can be integrated along the way, but technology doesn't help you actually, make plans, for example, or design your lesson. It doesn't. It's the pedagogy that will have to drive technology. So it's pedagogy and technology. Ibu, siapa tadi namanya ya, Ibu Shelia. Yeah, remember, technology in the past, zaman dahulu, yang namanya papan tulis itu adalah hasil dari teknologi. Yang penting papan tulisnya atau cara mengajarnya, begitulah. Terus setelah papan tulis itu diganti dengan apa yang namanya projector, transparency itu loh. So which one is more important, that technology or the pedagogy? Of course, it's the pedagogy. But the most important of all is the teacher. The teacher makes things happen in the classroom. So keep asking yourself, are you a good teacher? Are you a likable teacher? Are you a motivating teacher? Are you pedagogically knowledgeable? Are you linguistically competent? Are you technologically savvy? Can you use technology to support your teaching? It's all about you. Yeah. So that will be my response to your question, Ibu Sheila.
Okay, thank you so much, Pak Willy, and also thank you so much, Shelia, for the questions. Well, again, ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, that's all we have time for the first sessions, and there are a few points that I want to highlight to cover the whole presentations by Dr. Willy. So first, when it comes to the use of technology, it's all about gainfully integrating technology to improve teaching quality through the use of meaningful content and also meaningful experience. And one of many ways to do so is to put our students at the forefront of the learning process, meaning we engage them in more exploration and also the creation of learning resources and also learning artifacts. And finally, teaching is all about establishing genuine interaction between teacher and also students. Well, again, ladies and gentlemen, could you please join me to give a big applause to our wonderful Dr. Willy Renandia for his inspirational presentation. Thank you so much, sir. It's been a pleasure for us to have learned from you as well.
Thank you, Pak David.
And one more thing, we would like to present you with our special token of appreciation, sir. One moment, please.
Yeah.
All right, okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Willy.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, okay, thank you so much. So ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be our first sessions with Dr. Willy Renandia. And now we are going to pass the time back to the moderator. Ibu Erita, time is yours.
All right, thank you, Pak David, for leading this outstanding sessions with Pak Willy. All right, ladies and gentlemen, with Pak Dr.
Yeah, Ibu Areta, thank you for the time given.
All right, the floor is yours, Bu Eka.
Yeah, good morning, Bapak Ibu. Once again, thank you very much for being here with us. Thank you very much for coming to our webinar. And the second session is going to be with Pak Gumawang Jati, and I think all of us have known him as the president of ITEL, and he is also one of the lecturers in Institute Technology Bandung. So yeah, I think it is not necessary for us to wait for a very long time. Without further ado, Pak Jati, the Zoom is yours.
Thank you, Boyka. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Pak Willy, my kakak kelas.
No,
Thank you for
adik kelas.
Ngaku. Okay. After Pak Willy gave a very broad and very wide view of technology and teaching, for my session, I'm going to be very specific, only for listening that we're going to discuss. So bear with me. I'm going to go very slow. Prepare your mobile phone. You might need to interact with me later using your mobile if you have one. If you don't have one, ask Pak Willy and we'll send it to you from Singapore with the latest brand, actually.
Free.
Yeah, for free.
Yeah.
But when Pak Willy come to you, then maybe 10 times more expensive. Okay, so allow me to share my screen. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to talk about more on the tools later on, and I'm going to concentrate on the listening activities. Yeah. Again, like Pak Willy said, the technology comes later that we're going to use, and we concentrate on the pedagogy. This time, I'm going to concentrate on the listening activities. Then you will see and you will feel the difference between using technology or not using technology. Yeah. Like Pak Willy already said, that the internet has become the source for listening, no longer cassette player or CD player. Yeah, so I'm going to go around that soon. Okay. Yeah. Now this is the menu. Going to ask a lot of questions later, challenges in teaching listening, and we try to find out why and how to deal with that. Then I'm going to share with you maybe things that you know, maybe something later will be new, probably. Then going to practice together, looking at the listening resources, some listening resources. Then possible technology tools, I'm going to introduce maybe one or two only, not too many tools. And activities, I think the activities we are familiar with already. Yeah. During my talk, if you have any questions whatsoever, feel free to drop by in the chat box as usual. Yeah. Now, to start with, share your mood today. You say mood icon. Okay. Are you happy after Pak Willy, or are you not happy, or do you want a new laptop from Pak Willy? Yes, share that the mood today using an icon in the chat box, please. About your feelings. Oh, okay, lovely, happy. You okay? Good. You're still happy? Still in the morning? Have you had your breakfast? Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. Great to know that you're happy and energetic. Okay, we're going to use a lot of activities later on using chat box and also using your mobile. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Lovely. Now, the first, going to look at challenges in teaching listening. I got some challenges. I believe that you have challenges as well. Now, you can take a picture, not take picture. You can scan the QR code and go to the link, or you can go to the link and respond in that link, please. So you can take a picture, or you can use the link. I'm going to share the link in the chat box. Oh, thank you, Boyka. But I think you have to put like this. so that it's clickable. Yeah. Okay. So click that and just list the challenges that we have. So you can click or you can take picture using your mobile. Just one word, not a long answers. The student concentration for long text or long listening, okay? The sources become the challenge. Thank you. Okay, pronunciation, focus, that's vocabulary, pronunciation, vocabulary use, noise, strategy. Okay, make the activities not monotonous activities, instruction, pace, and speed. Okay, very good. So that these are some changes in listening. And listening is a lot of challenges to teach because you are not sure whether they understand it or not, and so on. Yeah. Okay. So you have to teach the pronunciation so that they can listen better. Think about that. If you teach pronunciation, then they can become a good listener. Think about that. Accent, strategy. Okay, so we have a lot of challenges in teaching listening, but here we mentioned about pronunciation, student concentration, and so on. Now, there are a lot of resources that we're going to explore. Yeah. If it's done alone, the connection, the language is too difficult to make activities not monotonous. Have a look at that and we're going to explore that. It's not that difficult, but we need to try. Yeah. Thank you very much for the response. Let's move on a little bit for another activities. Yeah. Now, these are the resources. How many of you familiar with Elo.org? Can you respond in the chat box, please? Yes or no? Elo. Yes, 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 yes. Okay, good. Yang no cuma satu. Eka Famawati, no. Oh, okay, okay, yes. No, okay. So, Elo is a very good collection of listening materials with questions. And it's World English. It's from not only native speakers, but also non-native speakers, mostly dialogue. Some can be downloaded, some can be played right away over there. So my advice would be explore Elo, and maybe it's useful for your student. It's similar to activities that we can do in the language lab. Jadi zaman dulu itu di language lab, dengerin kaset, dengerin CD, lalu ada multiple choice. So Elo is the online version of language lab. And there are thousands of exercises. Yeah, explore and give specific link to your students probably. Yeah. Now, another one is Learn English British Council. Are you familiar with that? Yes. Thank you. Yes. Yeah. Again, Learn English. This is from British Council. There are a lot of levels, listening levels there. And then again, you have to choose. Some are downloadable, some are not. So have a look at that. And also, it has a worksheet You might need to download the worksheet. You can adapt the worksheet. It's ready-made materials. Yeah. And how about VOA? How many of you familiar with VOA? Yes, that's mostly news. Yeah, it's for not for beginners for sure, but then there are a lot of exercises that you can practice there as well. Now, how about from abcnet.au? Are you familiar with that? The last one, listening resources. Yes, yes, sure, yes, yes, yes. Okay, so the resources are there. And then so many that you have to explore. Yeah, so you have to familiar with this because you can no longer go to the language lab and get the old material. If you want to have a new material, then you have to explore this and then download that and then adjust that for your teaching. Yeah, so resources is not an issue. Yeah, like my generation, if I want to listen to native speakers speaking English, that's very difficult without before the era of the internet. Yeah. Okay. Now, radio. Listening resources. There are a lot of listening resources with the radio. Radio is authentic. Some of you mentioned the accent. Some of you mentioned the different listening to a radio and the different with listening to these resources. These resources are in a quotation designed for language learning. Yeah, this one, it's more natural. My advice would be make them addicted, make your student addicted to listen to radio overseas. So they listen at home on their own. They can listen to the song. The song is very similar with that's popular here in Indonesia. Anyway, there are a lot of news. There are a lot of advertisement. So they will learn a lot. They will use this listening as a background when they're doing other things. Mostly they want to hear about the songs. Yeah, but then they can listen or they can hear something else in English. So think about that. How many of you use resources from radio? Can you put that or respond in the chat box, please? Or are you using other materials? VOA, thank you, Bu Eka. Other than Ibu Eka? Yeah, okay. I don't use radio. BBC, okay, very good. Ibu Dwi. TED Talk, yeah, TED Talk is not radio. Mbak Areta, it's not radio. Yeah, YouTube, hello, ABC News. Okay, now let's experience a little bit about listening to radio. Let's see what will happen. Yeah. Now, scan this QR code. And then I give you a minute to listen to UK radio. I can put the link in the resource. Just a second. Yeah. Then I put it in there. Then you just click the play. Yeah. I have to share my screen with the voice. Just a second, you can listen and try.
Saving over 18 months versus BT, Sky and EE's equivalent packages as of 15th June 22. Verify at talktalk.co.uk/future fibre. Subject to local availability.
News, sport, travel, weather in 20 minutes. Every 20 minutes, where the news never stops. This is LBC News.
From Global's newsroom, I'm Simon English. Donald Trump says his Florida home at Mar-a-Lago has been raided by the FBI, calling it a siege. The former US president.
Yeah. So you got the experience of listening to British accents. Now, if you scan this, on the next one, it's the VOA. Yeah. Okay, you can try to scan and got a minute or two to listen to the news. Yeah, I'm going to share that in the chat box as well. I can share the link. It is suitable for beginners, Ibu Mia. We're going to talk about that in a minute, but my quick answer, yes. Yeah, now let's have a VOA.
Splunk Infrastructure Monitoring is the analytics-powered, real-time metrics platform, purpose-built to address the needs of ephemeral cloud, containers, and serverless environments. Start your free 14-day trial and see how real-time visibility into your entire cloud stack can make your job easier.
And I'm Ashley Thompson.
This is VOA News. Reporting by remote, I'm Joe Ramsey. Former U.S. President Donald Trump said Monday agents of the Federal Bureau of Investigation.
So if you're paying attention, the VOA and also the UK, the news is almost the same. Yeah, the American accent, yes, Ibu Norinda, for sure. Now let's have a look at. So if you have students taking TOEFL test, probably this is the right materials. Yeah. Okay, let's move on to the next one. This is ABC. Okay, I'll share that in the chat box, or you can scan the QR code.
On their income before their deduction, their gross income. If this was in place, then high wealth individuals would be forced to pay some tax, even if they could find enormous deductions.
High earning individuals aren't the only ones paying no tax. In the corporate world, only 32% of mining and oil and gas companies.
Okay. I think you got the sense of what's radio online looks like. And it's also, you can download, not download, you can install the application in your mobile. Yeah. Now, let's do this exercise. So you got the experience. It's not very long. It's maybe 1 minute or two looking at that. Now I want you to scan this and do the exercise. I provide you with some exercise. I can also share the link in the chat box and try to respond to this, and then we can discuss that later. Yeah. Okay, I put that in the link. Okay. So you have listened very quickly earlier. Which radio station do you like and why? Can you click the plus and then write down your answer there? We have Talk Radio, that's UK, or we have the VOA or the Australian radio. Can you respond that in the Padlet, please? Thank you. Tadi Okay, some responses here. Love the accent. Easier to follow. Used to listening to these accents, Anissa. Yeah, clear. Yeah, so you need to explore, listen to the news, and then have a feeling about that. And then you can start thinking of how to create an exercise for your student. How to make your student addicted to this. Yeah, so you have to listen first. Maybe you can tell about the songs, you can tell about the advertisement, you can tell about something about interesting about this radio station. Introduce one or not necessarily 3 of them. Maybe you can use one and explore that with your students. Yeah. So thank you very much for this response in the Padlet. Okay, sorry for the bell. Creating worksheet and resources from these resources, think about that, and then we can discuss later. Yeah, Anissa, thank you. Now, let's move on a little bit. Yeah, activity. How many of you familiar with Padlet? Or how many of you not familiar with Padlet? Yeah, almost everyone, I think, after 2 years pandemic, you're familiar with the Padlet. Quite familiar, love it. Maybe if you heard about it, but if you haven't, then try it. What we just did, it's fan of Padlet. Yes, Ibu Eka. What we did was exercise using Padlet, yeah, that we can use a lot. So you can have a radio station like this, and then like the I put it here, like the questions become what do you like about this radio? Did you listen to that? And you can ask a lot of questions here. Yeah, so you can have listening activities using Padlet. Is it possible? Yes. You just put the materials there, and then some questions, and then they can respond. Yeah, very quick response. It's not traditional using multiple choice exercise. If you are looking for alternative, tadi ada yang bilang monotonous type of exercises, maybe this is going to be something different. Yeah, using Padlet. Okay, you can also use it for students get feedback. Yes, Padlet is very flexible. Yeah, but not many, I think, using Padlet for listening activities, Ibu Bilqis. Yeah. Okay, another one, you can have a QR code. We are back to traditional, not traditional, but when you have on-site or face-to-face class, you can create a very easy worksheet. Yeah, use the QR code here to create the link. Then you have some questions. Now, there was a question of, is it for high level or low level? Very much depends on your questions. Pak Willy tadi bilang tergantung pada gurunya. You can use this for low lesson, so you can ask questions like, list 10 words that you hear. That's it. Yeah, list 3 cities mentioned in the news, if any. Who are mentioned in the news? Pasti ada orangnya kan biasanya orang terkenal. Just that, yeah. Or you can ask questions like, is it about sport? Is it about the weather? The point is, it's not getting the right answer. The point is that the student listen so that they can get familiar. Yeah, and that stage, I think, is very important to get the exposure. Then you ask, what is the news about? Not the other way around. Yeah, listen 10 words. So they listen to 10 words, they take notes, then they listen again to answer list 3 cities. They mention the cities and so on and so on. And then the last one, what is the news about? Jangan terus tiba-tiba listen to this radio station, what is the news about? Akan terlalu sulit bagi beberapa orang. Yeah, so start from the easy one, bite size, not many questions, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 questions. I think that's enough for one go for listening to the news. Then when they like it, without your instruction, the student will be willing to listen to the news, because after the news, there is always a good music and so on. Yeah. So this is using QR and worksheet. How to create the QR? I think most of you knows. Go to QR-code or -generator.com. Then you can get the QR code very quickly. Yeah, it's free. Yeah, then you just get the news linked, put it in here and the QR generator, then you can create the QR code and then you put that in your worksheet. Yeah, so that's one way to create an exercise using radio station. Again, the point is ask tricky questions so that the student get addicted listening to the radio instead of listening to others things for the purpose of listening English. If you have students going to the US, then you can ask them to listen to VOA. If you have students taking an IELTS test, I think it's better from time to time assign them to go to UK radio station or the ABC radio news or maybe sport. After that, they will explore on their own whether they're going to listen to songs, radio stations, or radio station that talk about sport a lot and so on. Yeah, I think that's going to be useful alternative for questions test like TOEFL-like or IELTS-like. Yeah. Again, the exposure, bite size, small size, that's the key for these activities. Yeah, and Padlet can be used when they got the access and you're familiar with Padlet, or you can go traditional using paper and QR code, and that will do because they can answer that on the piece of paper and then they can listen to the radio station using their mobile. Yeah. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Yeah. So next one is going to be resources with video. But before that, we have to start thinking of listening activities. Listening activities, when you ask too difficult questions, then it can be demotivating. So careful. Start from the easy one, bite size, very small one, and also fun, not stressful. Yeah. Find the interesting topics. Yeah. Now let's move on to how about resources using video. Yeah. Some of you familiar with YouTube for sure. Now I'm going to give an example of bite size from TED as well, chunks from YouTube, and also from ESL videos. There are a lot of resources that we can use, and also from BBC Go UK Listening English. Yeah, going to explore that in a minute. Now, you have to explore that. Use this long link. I'm going to give you the link, share with you, or you can take a picture. Not take a picture, sorry. Scan the QR code and have a look at this Cambridge chunks in a minute. And then what do you think about this collection? Yeah. Let me share in the chat box about this link very quickly. Yeah. Just give me a second. Okay. Okay, so put it back here. You can scan that. Then my question is, what do you think about this collection? Yeah, this collection, what do you think about that? Can you respond in the chat box, please? Super, good. Thank you, Ibu Amel. Other response? Fun, good. Thank you, Ibu Titis. David, engaging. Have a look at that and explore. It's very short. Some are for children, some are for teenagers, and there are a lot of idioms that you can practice there, and there are many of that. Yeah, and it's very short. It's just very short type of exercise. Let's have a look at here. For example, how to use or something, you know, things like that. So when you look at materials from YouTube, you've got like 30 minutes, 20 minutes.
In informal spoken English, there are a lot of common patterns of 2 or more words. For example, you know, or something. The thing is, we call these chunks. Some of these may not work in formal writing, but native speakers use them a lot in informal social English. Using them in conversations can help you sound more fluent. Can you hear the chunks in this real conversation? So what do you do with your, like, in the evenings? There's nothing to do here. What kind of stuff?
We usually come home at about 6 or 7 from wherever we've gone.
Yeah.
We're usually out. We find something out there to do.
Uh-huh.
You know, we do our exercising.
Okay, so when we look at this, short for sure, so many topics, some you can sing along with your children for SMP and SMA, and there are a lot. And when I pay attention to this, not many teachers using this type of resources for listening. Easy, light, bite-sized, thank you, Poeka, and the student will not get bored. And sense of achievements. Yes, my listening is not that bad. I can do this. And that's very important. Rather than you have say TOEFL test for 20 minutes listening, 10 minutes activities for listening, that's can be too long. So bite-size, then discuss, bite-size, and discuss, bite-size, and discuss. Yeah. So think about that. And if you can accompany this with QR code and then with the questions to your students, the student, I think, will love you. No, the student, I think, will love your materials. Yeah, for listening activities. Yeah, put a little bit of energy to create on your own. Yeah, because then you know your students better. Then student will love that. And again, this is bite size. Yeah, you don't need to chop and so on and so on. Okay, that's a video from YouTube. Yeah, how about this? TED. What Willie mentioned about that. There is a lot of TED as well, but you have to be selective. Mostly, or there are some that's quite long, and there is some actually that's not that difficult. Now, I want you to scan this and then have a look at that quickly. I'm going to share with you the link as well. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to put that in the chat box. Okay.
At 7:45 a.m., I opened the doors to a building dedicated to building, yet only breaks me down. I march down hallways cleaned up after me every day by regular janitors, but I never had the decency to honor their names. Lockers left open like teenage boys' mouths when teenage girls wear clothes that covers their insecurities but exposes everything else. Masculinity mimicked by men who grew up with no fathers. Camouflage worn by bullies who are dangerously armed but need hugs. Teachers pay less than what it cost them to be here. Oceans of adolescents come here to receive lessons but never learn to swim. Part like the Red Sea when the bell rings. This is a training ground. My high school is Chicago, diverse and segregated on purpose. Social lines are barbed wire.
Yeah, I stop there. So there are a lot of short 2 minutes, 3 minutes TED that's performed by high school students or even younger. So if you go and have a look at the education system, education section, then you can find this kind of TEDx video. Maybe it's good for high level, but again, if you think of simple questions, probably that's going to be okay. Yeah. So this is a high school training ground. So you need to introduce before or to prepare your students before they watch this, like what Pak Willy said, before the class, what you should do while they're listening to this, and then paying on the expression, for example, and so on. Yeah. Okay. Now that's that. Let's move on to the next one. Yeah. Okay. This one for eslvideos.com. Are you familiar with this, or who has tried this one? Adakah yang sudah mencoba menggunakan ESL? I haven't heard that many teachers use this. Oh, Ibu Suci, you have. Thank you. Okay, Purusiana. Yes, thank you. Good, Pak Dedi. Yeah. This is also short clip. If you haven't tried, I'm going to give you some time to scan the QR code. And also, you can go to the link I'm going to share with you in a minute. Okay, copy that, and then I put that in the chat box. Okay, explore one, and then you can explore more later. Yeah, now let's have a look at this. This is about Mr. Bean.
Good evening. No, sir, you're in section first class. Good evening.
Yeah, Mr. Bean, for example, is used a lot in this collection. You can explore that with some ideas of the quiz. If you don't like the quiz, you can create your own, but they give you some ideas. The students, of course, will love this. It's not that many spoken listening from time to time. It's good to have with the low-level students, for instance. Yeah. Okay. I will not finish this. I think that's enough. Now, let's move on to the next one. Yeah. How many of you familiar with three-sided? Okay, let me close this one. Yes. Kevin, no. Okay. Bu Eka, yes. Anissa, yeah. No. Some of you familiar with three-sided stammer, not? No. Okay, now let's try this one then. Scan the QR code, or I can share with you the link in the chat box. And then we try to do this. Yeah, this is another idea how to use three-sider for listening. Put that in the chat box. You can try that one. Okay, here. So you can scan the QR using your mobile, and then you will be taken to this. Okay. So listening resources, which video do you like and why? Then I put here link. They can watch, and then link here, and then link here. So if you click this, if you like, then you can add arguments there. If you like argument, then put the plus. Why do you like that? And also write your names here. It's optional if you want to do it. You know, if you're familiar with three-sider, you can go ahead, and I think familiar with this format. If you haven't, have a try. You do not need to watch the whole video. Just have a glance and then to practice for the sake of the mechanics in the three-sider. Yeah. Give you some minutes to try that one. Okay, useful by Poeka. Thank you. Ready to use? We can create quiz. Thank you, anonymous. Yeah. Okay, so you can add arguments here. So if you have a learning activities like short videos or videos here, then you can create very quickly using three-sider. Yeah. I'm going to move on because of the time. I still got like around 10 minutes or so before we do the discussion, or if there is a questions. Or yeah, let's move on with the three-sider. So if you're not familiar with three-sider, you can go to threesider.com. Then it's very easy. I'm going to show you how easy it is. Yeah, you do not need to log in. You click that, then you three-sider. Then you put the question there and then click go. That's become very easy. For example, try. Then I put go. You try it on your own later on. It's there. Try there. And I put the idea here, put the link, and that's very simple. If you want to, if you like this type of exercise, or you like three-sider, then you can, I will advise you to have an account so that you can have a collection. The collection will be kept under your account. If I log in, then I can show you the 3 seconds that I had. See, so you can have this one later on for the discussion. From the pedagogy, you can have a three-sider before or after listening activities. It's more up to you. You can have a preparing the student before listening, or while after they listen, then they will do these exercises. Yeah. Okay. Now you can also create the QR code for watching video. Again, start with the easy one, maybe from 10 or 5 words that you see in the video. Is the video funny? Will you watch similar video? And then what is the video about? So start from the easy one, things that they can hear very quickly, things that they can see, they respond, personal response, and then you start asking about the content, and you can create more questions on that. Yeah. Okay. Now, easy, bite-sized, fun, and interesting topics. That's the key. And listening needs a lot of exposure. If your student just do listening inside the classroom or with you, it's not enough. If you have a pre-departure courses that preparing students to go overseas, just they listen just, or they doing listening just in the classroom with you, no, it's not enough. They should do more on their own. They need lots of exposure, and there are plenty of materials. Again, radio may be interesting. There are a lot of topics that they can choose, and there are a lot of radio station applications that you can download. You can use YouTube, you can use ESL. There are a lot of TED materials, but you have to introduce those materials in chunk, bite, movie clips. That's also interesting on that. So thank you very much. This is my email. If you want to access my slide, you can go to bit.ly/unech-jati-2022. Thank you very much, and I give it back to Ibu Eka. Ibu Eka, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Pak Jati, for your insightful presentation today. So, Bapak Ibu, is there any question for Pak Jati? While waiting for the questions, Pak Jati, perhaps something that we have to emphasize here is that when we often think that we do not have so many resources, Pak Bu, but then when you try to open our mind, it seems to us that there are so many resources. But yes, of course, we need our willingness to explore those exercises. So before coming or before bringing the websites into the classroom, then it is much better for the teachers to explore the websites, then think of the students' level, whether it is suitable for the students or not. And also we have to think of the activities that we can bring into the classroom. Besides, we also have to think about about something that the students have to do. So we should not give the students a very big assignment, a very heavy assignment to do, but it should be based on, again, their level, and also it should be based on the size, bite size, and from the easiest one to something that is a little bit more difficult. Is that Jati?
Yeah, that's correct, Ibu. So the most important is the exposure and also bite size. Make the listenings not that difficult so that they will listen more. Yeah, and there is a question here also. When using subtitle, our student listening or reading? Doing both. They listen and they read. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think when we give a video in which there is a caption or subtitle, I think it is going to help the students to understand the content of the video more. Because I know that there is a research done by Pak Willy, and the result shows us that while the group in which they are reading while listening is going to have better achievement than the group in which they just listen to the audios. And yes, I do agree that we should give the students so many exposures on listening, and we cannot guarantee that if we only give the materials, if we ask the students to depend on us in the classroom, then their listening skill is going to be improved. So perhaps there are so many students here. The most important thing for you is not to depend on the lecturers, but you have to explore the websites. You have to develop yourself. I think we have Ibu Kurniawati here, who raised her hand, Pak Jati. So Ibu, you can ask Pak Jati direct questions.
Okay, good morning, Pak Jati and everybody. It's
Morning,
always
Ibu.
great to listen to your explanations on these things. So the questions is related to the video of Mr. Bean. There are not many spoken words in that video. So is it intended for lower level students, or is it only like I just can answer the questions based on the pictures, not by the text that I hear from the video. So what is the consideration when we are using more silence video?
Yeah, I use that usually for the beginning of a discussion only, you know, not Mr. Bean every day. Yeah, that's okay. That's listening is not that difficult. You know, for example, this, you will listen to a few words and then the questions become, what's so funny about it? It's not easy. So they listen, they take interpretation, and then they answer the question. They not just, oh yeah, I hear that and then I restate that. It's not just that. There are a lot of tricks that you can use. I use a lot this interpretive questions to my students, first year ITP students, and they love that. They start thinking of, oh yeah, why he is being so funny. He is criticizing what type of person, and so on and so on and so on. Yeah, there are a lot of things that you can use. Of course, it's based on listen and also watch. Yeah, so they hear the expression, not the expression only, but also with the action. Yeah, multimodal. Back to you, Ibu Eka.
Yeah, thank you for the answer, Pak. Jadi I hope that it really answers Bunia's question. Yep. And once again, something I think that is something that is very important here is to give the students exposures and to do the flip learning. So it is much better for us to ask the students to listen to the audio before coming into the class, so that when they come into the class, then they have something to discuss with us. So we are not going to spend so much time in giving so much time in playing the audio and asking the students to listen to the audio. But when we are in the classroom, we can have a discussion, a deeper discussion, I think. What do you think, Pak Jati?
Yeah, in the era of the internet right now, not necessary to listen just to listen for that, but you can interpret the meaning of from the movement. It's interesting when you look at TED as well. That high school students actually they try to read poetry and then in front of the adult. Then you can have a lot of discussion if you are doing that for your students. If you are teaching FKIP, for instance, yeah. If you're introducing literature, for instance, so there are a lot of things that you can do around that. Yeah.
Once again, thank you for the information, Pak. And because there is no more questions in our chat box, then I think that's the end of Pak Jati's session. Bapak Ibu, students, one thing that we have to emphasize is that there are so many resources out there, but it depends on our willingness whether we want to explore the materials to be given to the students or not. So once again, Bapak Ibu, please try to explore the websites given by Pak Jati. And Pak Jati, before moving on to the next session, I think I have to give you the token of appreciation. Let me share my screen. Yeah, so Pak Pak Jati, once again, thank you very much for being here with us to be the presenter, and we have a lot of resources from you. And Bapak Ibu, will you please give a very big applause for Pak Jati? Thank you very much, Pak Jati, for being here once again. And I think this is the end of the second session, and I'm going to give the floor back to the Master of Ceremony, Bu Areta. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Pak Jati.
Thank you, thank you.
Bu Areta, are you here? Okay, because Bu Areta is not here, and then I think we can go on to the third session that is going to be with Ibu Vinita Dewi. Bu Vin, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, yeah. The third session is going to be led
voice?
by. The third session is going to be led by Gania. Gania.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, yeah. So please go on having the discussion with Bu Vinita Dewi. Time is yours, Gania.
Well, thank you, ma'am. Well, thanks to the Master of Ceremony for the time of opportunity has been given. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure to warmly welcome you to utilizing technology to empower the teacher candidate in this classroom. I hope the audience is still enthusiastic about receiving material from our next outstanding speaker. Well, before that, my name is Gania Salsabila Putri, as the moderator of today's international webinar. I'm very happy to see you here and welcome all of you to this webinar. Of course, an amazing material will be delivered by an extraordinary speaker. For the third speaker, namely, we have Ma'am Dr. Vinita Dewi. She is an English lecturer at Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia, Purwakarta campus. She is also the Director of Teacher Professional Development in Indonesia Technology Enhanced Language Learning Association, ITELL. Besides having extended experience in EFL teaching and training for more than 20 years, she has a great patience and interest in the area of educational technology. And what extraordinary, she has received many awards in his various work, one of which is the CEMEO, CEAMOLEC Research Grant Awards, and the Ministry of Education's grant on digital learning innovations in 2021. All right, before the presentation starts, let me tell you how the presentations will. For the first time, the speaker will be invited to present the material for 1 hour and includes a questions and answer sessions. All right, let's say hello to the presenter of our webinar today. Hello, Ma'am Vinita.
Hello, Ibu or Mbak Gania, ya. Hello,
Yes.
Mbak Gania. How are you?
I'm great, ma'am. How are you, ma'am?
I'm good, thank you. Been enjoying the presentation from Pak Willy and Pak Jati all morning, and I believe everyone's find it super fruitful, yeah, from all the presentation. I feel a bit nervous being together with the seniors, the Dewa from ELT and technology.
All right, to the certain time, because our speaker, Ma'am Dr. Vinita Dewi, is already in the Zoom, we immediately invite her to present the material. For participants who have questions regarding the material presented by Ma'am Vinita, can submit in the chat box provided, or participant can use the raise hand feature in the Zoom. All right, Ma'am Vinita Dewi, time is yours to present the material.
Okay, thank you very much. Hopefully you can see my screen.
It's still load, ma'am.
Okay. Well, oops. Wait. Something wrong with my screen sharing. Let me try it again. How about now?
Yes, ma'am, it's clear.
It's okay now? Okay. Oh, all right then. So this morning we've been talking a lot about technology and teaching from Pak Willy and Pak Jati. My session will be a bit practical. So we'll be talking about building vocabulary with technology. But since I believe that I know this is a bit late to ask who you are, but I checked the chat box and I really want to know who's there with me this morning. Are you pre-service teachers? Are you teacher, lecturer, or you have another job aside from the 3 that I mentioned? Okay, so lecturer, high school teacher. Since the title of this webinar is actually targeted for pre-service teachers, but then if I see some familiar names here, there are some of my colleagues, lecturers, teachers. So I want to know how many of you are actually pre-service teachers. Lecturer and private driver. Oh. Okay, most of you are lecturer and teacher. Can I hear the voice from the service teachers here? Are you there? ITEL lovers, yay!
I'm teaching pre-service teachers.
Oh yeah. Pre-service teachers friends and barista. Okay, so we can see that you've got so many jobs. Driver, barista, likable teacher. Oh, Bu Eka, I like you so much. There you go. We have one pre-service teacher there. Pak Jati's fans base. Siapa ini? Gak ketahuan namanya. All right then. Thank you very much for sharing. So we can see that most of you are lecturers, some are teacher. Didn't see many of pre-service teachers here. So my topic today will be about building students' vocabulary with technology. So now that most of you are lecturers, I believe that pedagogically you are pretty very strong, just like what Pak Willy mentioned this morning, that we need to equip ourselves with ELT pedagogy when we are going to implement or utilize technology in our teaching learning process. I want to know later what kind of activities, what kind of things that you usually do with your students when you are trying to build students' vocabulary. So building vocabulary is not only about having more list of vocabulary for our students. It's not about asking them to memorize new vocabulary or unfamiliar vocabulary. When they have rich vocabulary, then it can help them understand and support content knowledge in all disciplines. So it's not only about those learning the language, but also those who want to know more content knowledge, and they can enrich the information, they can get more information through rich vocabulary. And then it's also a key for reading comprehension. Some students might find difficulties, might find some obstacles when they read text or when they watch video, when they listen to some listening materials given by Pak Jati before, when they have limited vocabulary. So it's one of the key that we need to introduce. We need to support students to equip the skills on how they can build their vocabulary. Today, I'm going to introduce you with some techniques of enriching students' vocabulary with technology. So there will be 4 strategies. First, we are going to use visual display. And the second one, we're going to use word association. The third one, we are going to use online translation tool. And then the last one, we are going to have a vocabulary field trip. Hopefully I have enough time to cover all my plan today. So while trying to cover those 4 strategies, I'm going to bring you to a journey underwater. So this is just a modeling. This is just an example, so that when I talk about teaching vocabulary, I have the context. I have something to refer to. I'm going to bring you to a journey underwater. Let's imagine, for example, I start my lesson by showing this picture. Can you guess what am I going to do, what kind of things that I'm going to do with this picture. Can you respond on the chat box? Can you guess what am I going to do with this picture? Okay, maybe I'm going to talk about water animal. Maybe I'm going to talk about diving. Color would be okay, Pak Bambang. Explore the animals' names. Yes. Ask students to name the sea creatures. Great guess. Yeah, name of the fish. Exactly. We are going to talk about the vocabulary related to things underwater. Describe the pictures. Talking about hobby, yeah. Okay. The life and the word. All right. Naming them, yes. All right then. So there are many things that we can do using only one picture. Maybe I'm going to use a video after we talk about this picture. So this can be a bridge. I'm going to use this picture as a bridge before students watch a video, a viewing activity, watching Finding Nemo. So now I will invite you to watch a video with me. Let me check my setting, share sound. All right, I'm going to invite you to watch the very first part of the video. Let me know if you can hear the sound.
Hi, I'm Brian Scarry, and I'm a photographer that specializes in marine wildlife. It's really been a dream come true for me to be able to be a National Geographic magazine photographer, travel around the world and tell stories about whales and dolphins and sharks and turtles and all these great creatures.
Okay, just a teaser at the beginning. So suppose I'm going to teach my student and I'm going to use this video as the main course of the activity. Now, my question is, can you help me? What should I do before the student watch the video? I need your help. Can you give me an idea? What should I do before the student watch the video? You can respond in the chat box. Build knowledge on the field by asking experience, yes. Brainstorming, Q&A, okay. What kind of questions are you going to give during the brainstorming activity? Ask the schemata, short quiz. Ask the favorite sea creatures. Okay, give some pictures related to the video. Guess what I did before? I give pictures, maybe I do some discussion. Q&A, what kind of questions are you going to give to your student? Storytelling the fish on the sea and guess it. Asking about the experience, okay. How are you going to help your students if, for example, there might some unfamiliar vocabulary in the video? Giving word lists about marine life. That's a possibility. Discussing vocabulary related to the video. Use chat box or Mentimeter. Mention some vocabulary related. Okay. Jamboard, giving pictures, asking to get some vocabulary. Yes. So some students might get difficulties when they watch the video due to some unfamiliar vocabulary. So before watching, we might need to take some vocabulary and discuss it with the students. Use Quizlet or matching the vocab. All right then. Now that's what we are going to do. I'm going to invite you to watch the video again, but this time, please write in the chat box if you find some words that you think will be difficult or problematic for your student. Okay, we'll watch this 2 minutes video, and I want you to take notes on some vocabulary that you think you need to teach to your student. Are you ready? Okay, let's start. Let me start. Wait.
They get in the water and get close within a meter.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Brian Scarry, and I'm a photographer that specializes in marine wildlife. It's really been a dream come true for me to be able to be a National Geographic magazine photographer, travel around the world and tell stories about whales and dolphins and sharks and turtles and all these great creatures. You know, as an underwater photographer, you got to get in the water and get close within a meter or two, and it's a testament to the animals that let us close. They have their own dialects, which we could essentially call languages.
That's something really special.
One picture that I made several years ago has become somewhat famous, and it's a picture of my assistant standing on the bottom next to a 45-foot-long, 70-ton southern right whale with this giant animal that was as big as a school bus swimming with me on the bottom of the ocean and allowing me to make these series of photographs. Most of the work that I do is with scientists who dedicate their lives to trying to figure out the mysteries in the ocean. Over the years, I began to see a lot of problems occurring in our world's oceans. One of the biggest problems for whales is entanglement from fishing gear. Whales and sharks swim through the water and they get entangled in nets and lines and buoys, and it can actually kill them if some sort of rescue doesn't occur. I think it's important that we understand the problems in order to find solutions. It's not too late. We can solve these problems, but we have to know about them first, and then we have to work together to find answers.
Okay, thank you very much for your contribution. So I can see that there are many words that you post. Giant creature, existence, underwater photographer, exactly, whale, dolphins, coral reef, and so on. So if you just show it to your student as a list of words, do you think it will be interesting? Of course not. Students will get bored, and as Pak Willy mentioned, that if they get bored, then they will just stop listening to you, stop engage in the conversation with you. So one of the way that we can do is creating a visual display of the word that we want our students to learn, the word that we think they are not unfamiliar. We are going to use Word It Out. Are you familiar with this technology tools? Word It Out? Maybe some of you know already. We check a yes or a no there. No, new, not yet. Good news for me. All right, let me show you Word It Out. So Word It Out is a kind of tool that can create word cloud. Word cloud is like this, the one on the right side. I'm going to create a word cloud based on the words that you mentioned, that you wrote in the chat box before. So what I'm gonna do, I go to worditout.com and then I click create. After I click create, I will start typing or copy pasting some words from your list. For example, I have I think I will just type here like coral reef, underwater photographer, whale, dolphins, what else? Existence. Oops. Why do I just type the word? And then animal. Okay, let's just imagine that we have this. Okay, giant creature. When you're done, then we click generate. And voila, we can have our word cloud. Then you can actually set the kind of font that you want to have, or you want to keep it random. You can set also the kind of color that you want to have, like this, and you can keep regenerating your word cloud until you find the best display for you. Okay, for example, I pick this one. And from this word cloud, we can generate some activities with our students. I'm going to discuss the activity related to this word cloud later. Let me check. Okay. So from this word cloud, we can also create a lot of activities before they watch the video and after they watch the video. But let me ask you a question. Does it take time for you to search for words when you are listening to and when you are viewing the video? Lama nggak sih? Or is it difficult for you to find the right word when you have to pick which one is the vocabulary that I'm going to introduce? Sometimes teachers doesn't have enough time for that. So actually, we have another technology tools that can help you do this thing faster. Using Word It Out, you can do it manually. You can input the word one by one, but using the second tool that I'm going to introduce to you, the name is Skim Through. Skim Through is an AI, a machine that can help you automatically create word cloud. Okay, so for example, I will go to the video here. And I will open my Skim Through. And let's see whether we have similar word or different word. The one created by machine and another one created by the teacher. So what you need to do, just log into Skim Through and copy the link.
It was as big as a school bus swimming with me.
And paste it here. The title will be automatically there. And don't forget to select the domain. You can say natural resources, or you can just say it's a museum. And click proceed. And let's see how machine can help us create a word cloud based on the video. There you go. Can you compare the video, the word cloud created by human and word cloud created by the machine? You have the photographer, whales, maybe you have more like fishing gear, marine wildlife, National Geographic, and so on. So skim through is a tool, an AI, which can help you create these kind of things within a second. So you don't have to listen to the video from end to end, but you can just pick the word from here. And if we click one word, for example, whales, it will go directly to the part in which the video mentioned about whale.
It's about whales and dolphins and sharks and turtles and all these great creatures.
Let's see. If I click National Geographic,
As an underwater photographer, you got to get in the water and get close within a meter or two, and it's a testament to the animals that let us close.
Is entanglement from fishing gear. Whales and sharks swim through the water and they get entangled in nets, and it's about whales and dolphins and sharks and turtles and all these great creatures.
So every time you click the word, it will direct the students to the part in which the word is mentioned. So it's not only knowing the vocabulary, they can also identify how it is pronounced in this video. They can also search for how's the word is used within the context, within the sentence. So students can enrich their vocabulary, not only as a single vocabulary, but they can listen to it, they can understand it within the context. Yes, we cannot have a long video. It's between 2 minutes to 30 minutes, because if it is too long, then it's going to be difficult for the AI to identify the word, which one should be posted in the word cloud, which one is considered the keyword from the video. All right, then. So these are 2 technology tools that we can use for visual display on teaching vocabulary. So what kind of activities that we can do with word cloud? Before viewing, for example, you can ask the students to predict, to make some prediction on the video that they are going to watch. You can ask about what does the word cloud suggest the video is about, so they can make a prediction. What is it about? You can ask about the which words do you think is the most important, the keywords, the core of the video. And you can also ask the students to look at the connection between words. Why do they get together? What's the connection between one word with another? By doing so, you are actually helping the students to gain their background knowledge, to have their schemata on the things that they're going to watch and prepare them before they watch the video. But then after watching the video, you can also still use a kind of word cloud in your classroom. You can ask your students to judge, to make judgment whether the word cloud really captured what was most important to learn, whether the word cloud really helped the students to get to figure out what is the video about, or whether they want to add some keywords, whether they want to add some words on the word cloud that they think are left out, that they think that we should put there. In this situation, we can combine skim through and word it out together, right? Because in skim through, we cannot add any new words there, but using the word it out, you can ask your students to work together and recreate a new word cloud. So when we use technology tools, we are not only using it for resource, in which students learn from it, but we can also use it as a tool to accompany students to learn. So after watching the video, you can ask your students to create the new word it out, comparing the skim through with their own list of words, and they can have their creativity creating this kind of word cloud. In case you don't have any technology tools, actually, you can also create this in a flip chart, right? In an A4 paper, ask your students to draw. And the function is still the same. All right, that's one visual, creating visual display. You can use two things, word it out and skim through. Well, actually, we also have this one. This is similar to visual display, but this one is more related to word association. I don't know if you are familiar with this website, Visuwords. This website can help you or can help your students create the kind of connection from one word to another. Let's have a look at this. Let me check visuwords.com. We'll close the other. Okay, this is Visu. We can explore. It's like a visual dictionary. It gives you a kind of the definition of words, but also give you the thesaurus, the words connected to things that we put here. For example, I will put something related to the video, underwater. And let's see what happened. So this is underwater, and then it connect you to different kinds of words. We have dive here, explore, adventure, per diver, and so on. And then marine archaeology, aquatic, and many more. So we can see the association, the connection, the relation between one word to another. And you can see that there are some legend here. The purple one is noun, the green is verb, orange is adjective, and the pink one is adverb. You can also teach your students about parts of speech. And if you hover through the words, explore, adventure, then you will see the definition of words. So it will help your students to enrich their vocabulary. You can have this as a continuation of a activity. After they create their own word cloud, maybe you want them to expand their vocabulary, and you can ask your students to explore Visuwords by themselves. Let's try another. Let's see diving, for example. There you go. There will be so many things related to diving. Cliff diving, jackknife swimming, and many other things, diving board, so including the equipment, the activities, things like that. So it will be very useful for your students. You can ask your students to explore it themselves. You can just give the link, and yeah, then you can discuss. You can ask them to discuss with their group what kind of word that they found, what it is, what's the relation, and how is it related to the video that you watched previously. Later on, I will share you my slides, and you can have access to all the links, the website that I provide in this presentation. Let me move on because I'm aware of time here. Well, the next one that I'm going to introduce is online translation tool. Probably you are familiar with Google Translate or some online dictionary in which students should move from one platform to another when they read something, and then sometimes it distracts them, right? They find an unfamiliar word, and then they have to go to Google Translate or another online dictionary, check it, and go back to the reading text. It might distract the joy of reading. And now I found this ReadLang. ReadLang is a kind of embedded tool in which we can read a text, and when we find out some unfamiliar word, then we can just click the word and get the translation. So it's easier. They don't have to move from one platform to another, and it helped them in the flow of reading the text. Let's have a look at this. I have a text still about this underwater photographer, Brian, and the text is pretty long. Some of my students might get difficulties understanding this. So instead of using Google Translate, copying it and paste it in Google Translate, and they only read the Indonesian version of the text, we can use ReadLang. I have embedded my ReadLang on my Chrome here. Later, I will show you how. So I just turn it on. And now ReadLang is ready to be used. I'm using English to Indonesia. So when I read this text and then I get a familiar word, I will just click it. And I get the Indonesian translation of the word. So it's easier for me. I don't have to move from one window to another. I find another fisheries, for example. Then I found a translated word. Underwater, ecosystem. Recognize, and so on. Okay, so can you see the difference between using online dictionary with this embedded ReadLang? Another thing which is useful is that when we go to ReadLang and sign in, then we can have the collection of words. Students can have the collection of words that they clicked previously. Let me try to sign in. Students will get the collection of words that they clicked previously, and they can relearn it later. So they can identify, oh, these are the words that I don't know. And I can learn it again using the word list here. If you still remember, these are the words that I clicked previously. And I can also use flashcard to help me remember the word. For example, I will review 8 words. These are the words that I clicked previously. Okay, so mass, what's the meaning? If I don't remember, then I click it. And there is a degree of confidence here. Did you remember? Not at all, almost, and yes. Survive. Try guess the first, and then click question mark, and so on and so forth. So students can learn together with ReadLang through reading the text and then clicking some words that they feel unfamiliar with. And after that, they go to the website, ReadLang website, and have the word list there. Let me refresh. Let's check. Yeah, there it is. I click protecting and intelligent, and it's there. They can also listen to the word.
Protecting.
How to pronounce it?
Intelligence.
And try to relearn it using flashcard here. So that it's not only one-time encounter, they see it, they see the translation, and that's it. They might forget all the words. But if they see it, they reread it, they check where did they find this word protecting, they still can go back to the blog They still can go back to the website and recheck it again. They can listen to it. So there is a abundance of exposure to the same word again and again. So they can retain their vocabulary in their mind and use it in the context. So ReadLang would be very useful. It's beyond translation tool. It's beyond Google Translate. You can ask your students to turn it on, and they can try to enrich their vocabulary themselves. That's ReadLang. Hopefully, it is gonna be useful for your student and for you. Yes, ReadLang is the most convenient for you. Obviously, you've been using it so far. You can share your experience or your student's experience here in the chat box on how you use ReadLang. So I think you can embed it in your teaching learning activities. You provide the text, and then students can learn different vocabulary. So we know that different students might have different unfamiliar vocabulary from a text that we provide. If we use word cloud, for example, we predict the word that might find difficult. But if you are using ReadLang, this is personalized learning experience in which students can click any word that they find difficult. So it's not predicted by the teacher, but it's based on the students. And then you can ask the students the experience, what kind of word that they find difficult, what's the degree of confidence on memorizing and remembering the meaning of the word, the pronunciation of the word, and so on. So that's what you can use. The last one. Last technology tools that I'm going to introduce is, I've been mentioning this before, that students need access to words. And if it is on demand, if, for example, the students need it and it's there for them, and it will help them understand the text, it will be easier rather than we pre-teach, according to the research, rather than we pre-teach the vocabulary and see if students can recall their memory while they are reading the text. All right, this is the last one. I'm going to invite you to join a vocabulary field trip. Pak Willy mentioned before that today we really need to have a multi-dimensional learning. When they learn something, when they learn vocabulary, for example, they don't only learn it through the synonym. They need to learn it from the picture. They need to learn it from listening to something. They need to learn it from reading on a text. They need to learn it from viewing something. So using these tools, you can provide a multimedia vocabulary field in which students can get exposure to different kind of way of understanding or acquiring vocabulary. Let me invite you to my ThingLink. So we are still talking about the underwater. And we have so many things here, including the scuba diver. And this is the ThingLink that I created. If I hover this, and you can see the translation. That's the basic one, right? Hover it and you see, what is it? Oh, it's a sea turtle. Hover it and what is it? Oh, it's a stingray. But you can also ask your students to watch something. For example, this is a dolphin. Sorry. You hover it and they can watch a video, facts about dolphin.
Water. Mammal.
Or you hover it, let's see, what is it? You can watch a video, something related to journey underwater. Another thing, you can hover it and you can have your student listen to the pronunciation. This is my voice that I recorded last night. So let's see.
Underwater coral reef.
And another voice here.
Scuba diver.
So you can have a multimedia to introduce the vocabulary. Students can have the link and learn the vocabulary related to underwater journey. I'm going to show you how to create this ThingLink. Oh, it's private. Okay, I think I have to click it. Later, I will edit it. Okay, but I'm going to show you ThingLink. So what we need to do, we prepare. Where is it? We prepare the picture. So we go to ThingLink. What you need to do, you just need to sign up. Okay, I'm not going to show you how to sign up. It's super easy. And create ThingLink and create image. Then I'm going to upload the same image that I have before. Let me see the image. Here it is. So I will upload the image. Sometimes I created the image using Canva or just find images from Google. And what we need to do, we just click edit and add some tag there. So click tag. For example, you want to add text label. We can change the icon and put it near the object and just write sea turtle and click done. So we have one tag there. You want to add another tag. For example, you want to add video. So click this. Maybe you want to change the icon to YouTube video and put the link from the video and paste it here. Super easy. Just put the tag anywhere you want to have. If you want to link it to a text, I haven't shown you this one. So we can also link to a text, a website like this. So students can learn vocabulary and read something like this. So what you need to do, you just find the text. Let's say, I will take this one, copy it, go to add tag and add content from website, paste it here, and it will be easier if you find the right icon so that your students know what they are going to encounter. So if they see this icon, it means they have to read something. If they see this icon, it means they have to watch something. If they hover this, there's a text over there. And then we have video, we have text, we have reading, voice. For voice, I'm using my own voice. So I use one tool's name, Vocaroo. This is an online recording tools. Probably many of you familiar with Vocaroo. What we need to do, we just click this and record our voice. I will click this. This is a picture about underwater creature. I click stop, and then I click simpan dan bagi, or if it is in English, save and share. And then you click this, disematkan or embed, and copy the embed code. You go to this link. Let's see, where do you want to put the tag? You use add and content from website. Let's have this one. So give different icon to different tasks so that your students can identify easily what they are going to do with the icon. When you're done, just click done. And you can share it to your student. Or if it is private, I think you need to log in. Let's see. Public. Okay. Let's try this one. Hopefully this one work for you. Copy, and I will share it with you in the chat box. Let me know if you can access the link. So that's the vocabulary field trip, the last part of my presentation. But what you need to remember is when you use technology again, we can use it as a resource and as a learn from tool and as a learn with tool. So when you're using ThinkLink, it's not only you teacher who can create the vocabulary field trip. I think it will be useful if you create a kind of project, creating a vocabulary field trip, and let the students do the action. Let them find the picture, let them put the tag, find video related to the picture, name some of the things in the picture, record their voice, find some reading text, or even write a short paragraph and then tag it in each part of the object or the object on the video. Okay, the link worked. All right then. So that's the field tour vocabulary field trip that you can do with ThinkLink. It is pretty easy. You can share. ThinkLink is a kind of premium website, but then I think to some extent you can use the free version, the limited version for the vocabulary field trip like this. But you can really involve your students like in the classroom of the ThinkLink. So throughout this process, they can visit several teacher-selected websites. In the vocabulary field trip, you can gain students can gain knowledge about words through multiple exposure in different contexts and also through different media. They can read, they can view, they can write. If you link it to Padlet, that which was introduced by Pak Jati before, you can ask for students to share in a conversation in WhatsApp, for example, if you link your ThinkLink to WhatsApp. So you can have a multiple interaction with your students. To end my presentation, I would like to remind you again that all the technology tools can be used as a learn from tool and as a learn with tool. When you use this as a learn from tool, it means that you use it as a resource. You are the one who provide the resource and students access it, see it, watch it, read it, as the audience. But then as a learn with tool, you can involve the students, you can engage the students in the activity. Like, for example, ask them to create their own word cloud, ask them to create a ThinkLink, a vocabulary field trip that can be shared with their friends. So here they have a more active participation, and this can activate their mind, their knowledge better than just sit around and being an audience, watching or listening. So that's the end of my presentation. I'm going to pass it back to the moderator. If you want to get access to my slide, you can take a picture, you can go to that bit.ly, and you can reach me in vinita@up.edu. So thank you very much. That's the end of my presentation.
Well, thank you, Ma'am Vinita. Lecture is extraordinarily insightful, with many strategies and reference given in building vocabulary using technology for students. All right, ma'am, we're going to the next session. It's question and answer sessions. If the participant has a question for Ma'am Vinita, give your questions right in the chat box.
Okay, let me scroll up a bit. I think there are some questions that I missed. Question from Ibu Nia. Oh, in skim through, can we use for written text? No, it's specially for video, Bu Nia. Did I miss another question? Yeah, of all the technology tools that that I introduced, which one do you think will be? Oh, how to add readlang to Chrome? Oh, all right. Yeah. What you need to do, you go to readlang. We find readlang web readers. And this one, install web reader. You have to use Chrome because it cannot work in other browser. So you can find Safari. Well, I think it works for Safari, but I don't know. I have never used it. You can install it through this website. When you have installed it, and it will show up here on the top bar. But if you cannot find it there, please click this button and make sure that you pin it. Look at this. If I unpin it, you won't see it on the bar up there. But if you pin it, then you will be able to see it there. So that's the key. You can try, go to this part. Sure. I'll post it in the chat box. Okay, hope it helped. Is there any other question?
Yes, ma'am. It's from Mr. Fritz Huta Barat. Have you encountered any problems in using this tool in the class?
Of course. Using technological tools in the classroom means we are ready for problems. Internet connections, electricity, students' devices, which is sometimes incompatible with the tech tools that we use. So we should be ready with everything. What I usually do is before I use new technology tools, I will use it with small group of people. Maybe I will ask my students to try to install readlang, 1 or 2 of them. So see if there is any problem. And I will ask these 2 people to introduce readlang to their friends so that they can help. So let 1 or 2 or 3 students successful with one technology, especially if something that need to be installed, and then they become the ambassador, they become the agent of readlang. So I don't usually bring technology tools right into the classroom and ask them to install at that time because it will take time. It's better for us to prepare it beforehand. So ask them to install when they have problems, then we can try to find the solution before the class, not taking up too many time in the classroom. That's what I can share, Pak Prince.
All right, thank you, ma'am, for the answer to the questions. All right, we have questions from Anissa Sofarini. Are there any alternatives to Padlet? Bu Vinita say it for creating discussions board.
Discussion board. Actually, beside Padlet, I'm using Tricider a lot. I know that Padlet is so far the most convenient because it can afford so many kind of different media, right? Voices, video, text, pictures, and so on. But sometimes I use Tricider. I don't use Jamboard a lot because I don't know. I don't find it. What is it? Yeah, I don't really use it a lot with my student. And then I also use a lot of Telegram group discussion. So sometimes Telegram group is more dynamic than having it in Padlet or Tricider because we can have it synchronously at the same time.
All right, thank you, ma'am, for the answer. Hopefully, the answer the questions from Miss Anissa. We have a next question from Bu Istiqomah Nur Rahmawati. Bu Vinita, I would like to ask questions about speaking. Can I still ask? Maybe Ma'am Istiqomah can turn your on mic.
Thank you, Mbak Gania. Well, Bu Vinita, good morning. I would like to ask about whether this one, sometimes in the teaching learning process, we will focus more on the process instead of the result or the project, right? However, when it comes to the speaking class, usually when I assign my students to do the project, in the process is that when they do the assignments, they tend to speak in Bahasa Indonesia instead of using English. So can we still consider it as speaking class or not? Because what is that, their goal is just finish the assignments, right? But when it comes to the discussion, they still use their mother tongue. Thank you, Bu Vinita.
Well, probably later Pak Willy or Pak Jati can add to my answer. It depends on the level, I think. Personally, sometimes I let my students discuss things in their mother tongue to help the discussion going. But then before they do the presentation, I always ask them to rehearse. So impromptu speaking is not easy. I use a lot of Telegram group discussion. So usually in my Telegram group, I prompt questions which can be answered with 2, 3, 4 sentences, and then they record their voice using Telegram. The best things that I found in using Telegram voice recording is that students can prepare themselves. They can practice before they record their voice. Once they feel comfortable with their speaking, and then they will start recording the voice. But the time is limited too. So within the 1 hour duration, they might need to record 3, 4 times answering to my question. So it's pretty dynamic situation. Maybe Pak Willy, I believe Pak Willy have better answer for this.
Okay, I'm representing Pak Willy. Pak Willy is not answering. Pak Willy.
I'm on now. Yes. Very good question, Ibu Nur. A couple of observations that I have. Number one, I think what happens is when students use a lot of Bahasa Indonesia during the discussion, it can mean two things. Number one, the students are not ready to use English. They don't have sufficient language to speak in Bahasa Inggris. And because of that, they switch to Bahasa Indonesia, which is quite normal. Can they use Bahasa Indonesia? Then the answer is yes, they can. But I think what we need to do is to help the students to increase their language proficiency. How do we do that? One method that is very, very useful for anyone who wants to learn a new language is, doing what is known as shadowing or mirroring. Shadowing means there's a video talk, for example, a story presented in a video. Then what the students need to do is to listen and to basically repeat, say it together. So speaking along, that will be preparing the students to improve on their pronunciation, but at the same time, they will be developing slowly their ability to express themselves later. And this is how you build a connection between listening and speaking. Pak Jati talks about listening, but you can add a speaking component by asking students to shadow, to speak along, to read along as they listen. Another opportunity for the students to practice speaking is by doing voiceover. I don't know if you know how to do voiceover. So you listen to a news broadcast, for example, from the BBC or from Voice of America. What you need to do is to get your students to do a voiceover. So it's the same presenter. You unmute the voice, but now you add your own voice. You're doing a voiceover. Why is it a good practice? Number one, the students have to listen like 10 times so that they can sort of imitate or reproduce the style, the pronunciation of the original speaker. If you're looking for applications, I think I can mention one or two. Screencast-O-Matic is one of them. There may be other applications. I think Vinita or Pak Guawang know many more. So very simple technology. When the students do voiceover, they have to do a lot of listening, number one. And number two, they have to do a lot of practicing because the goal is to reproduce the language as, as exactly the same as possible. So they have to say it again and again and again and again until eventually their voiceover is similar to the original version. I think that is how you develop very slowly students' ability to listen with comprehension and also to produce the language. So I don't think we can force the students to, hey, students, you cannot use Bahasa Indonesia. They will use it. So that is okay. But at the same time, you need to be mindful that the students need to develop, need to learn more language. And one of the best ways is doing voiceover or doing mirroring or doing shadowing.
Okay, just one more point. Thank you, Pak Widi. So listening is the key. They have to listen and listen. When they listen, then spoken English, they will speak spontaneously. That's for sure. In that context, when they use Bahasa Indonesia, again, I agree with Pak Willy that they are not ready or they cannot do it spontaneously. So in my settings, when I give tasks and I expect them to speak in English, I always there, then I will not speak in Bahasa Indonesia. So I will respond everything in English. Then some people who are comfortable with using English, they will switch using English. But some of them, they are struggling. Yeah, they're still struggling. They are not ready. And they will use, because they got project to do, they got things to do, they got ideas, so they will say it even in Bahasa Sunda, Bahasa Jawa, or even other languages, because for the sake of the communication. But then I'm consistently using English and responding everything in English to give them the model. And automatically, from my observation, that the students, that they are ready, and then they use English bit here and there. That's what I can say. Thank you.
So in conclusion, that we need to expose the students first, towards the listening, and then we'll let them to speak later on. Thank you, Pak Willy, Pak Gumawang, and Bu Vinita for the answer.
Yes, Ibu Nur and everyone here in the audience, I think all of you are familiar with the genre-based model, right?
Yes.
The building knowledge of the field, modeling, joint construction, and independent construction, right? All these 4 things. Okay, what I just shared with you is basically number 2. The modeling will have to be done a lot more. Students need to see and to hear a lot of language models before they can produce. The building knowledge of the field, don't spend too much time on that. Just very briefly, 5 minutes is enough. But the modeling is where the students can learn a lot of language by seeing the language in action, by hearing the language in action. Yang banyak ini nomor 2. Yeah. And when you spend a lot of time doing this with the students, I think gradually the students will be more able to produce language more spontaneously, although it's going to take time. Yeah, do a lot more modeling. Modeling itu bukan hanya satu contoh, tapi berpuluh-puluh. And technology is a wonderful thing for you to make use of. So students get to hear a lot more, get a lot more exposure to the language. I would like to make one comment on Vinita Dewi's presentation. I like the presentation because vocabulary is so important. Bapak Ibu sekalian, please remember, do not teach too much grammar. Grammar is not that important. So stay away from teaching too much grammar. I think we tend to over-teach grammar. So jadi ingat the other day, I watched a presentation at the Asia TEFL Conference. Kurikulum baru di sebuah negara. Bersama dengan adanya kurikulum baru yang menekankan pentingnya vocabulary, but at the same time, school budget for grammar books, itu sekarang sudah dihapus. Guru-guru tidak boleh membeli buku-buku grammar lagi. I think the message is very clear. Grammar has been way too overemphasized in our teaching. Some grammar is important, but we tend to teach too much grammar, either sentence grammar dan juga text grammar. Too much, way too much. For speaking, for listening, for writing, for reading, I think students need to know a lot more vocabulary. And that is probably one of the most important jobs that you need to do. That is to help your students to increase the number of vocabulary that they have in the English language. Related to Vinita's presentation, yes, there are a lot of applications that you can use to help the students to translate, to help the students understand the text in the English language. One thing that we need to remember is this. If the text has more than 20% of the words that the students don't understand, translation is pedagogically not very useful. I mean, it is useful that in the sense that students understand what the text is about very briefly, but from a language learning perspective, that's too much. The number of new words in the text should not be more than 5%. Tidak boleh lebih dari 5%. Even better, no more than 2%. So what does it mean when you find a video material or a text that is interesting, but it has too many new words? What do? What you can do is to simplify the text. Make sure that the text contains a lot more high frequency words. Apakah ada aplikasi yang bisa dipakai? There is one, but it's not really wonderful. But it tries to simplify the language, not translate, but simplify to make the language easier. Namanya Rewordify. You can try that. It's not wonderful, but I think the tujuan of the application is to make a difficult text less difficult by changing the words, not translating, but by changing the words. There is another program available on the internet. Another application is called LexTutor. I like this one better, but it's going to take you quite a bit of time. You can, if you find a text that is difficult, you can put it inside LexTutor, and then LexTutor will tell you which words belong to low frequency words Low frequency itu yang kata-kata yang jarang dipakai dalam bahasa Inggris. And which words belong to high frequency words? So those words that are indicated as low proficiency, low frequency, itu diberi tanda, and we can replace that with the high frequency words. I think pedagogically that is what we need to do. Because usually students need to learn about 3,000 words for reading purposes, for reading general purpose text, kurang lebih 3,000 kata. If they know more, that's good. If they know 5,000 words, that's better. For speaking, untuk speaking, conversation, social interaction, itu sekitar 2,000 kata. A little bit less than 2,000 is okay. Maybe 1,500 kata sampai 2,000 kata. That's more than enough. Yeah. So if you find a dialogue that is way too difficult and you use a translation tool to translate the text, that will not be too useful. I think you need to simplify the language. Replace difficult words with simpler words for the students to learn. That we might take on the issue of vocabulary. But I agree that vocabulary is so important. Another important message is do not teach too much grammar. I think for the past 100 years, English teachers have been spending too much time teaching our students grammar.
All right, thank you for the share sessions. From the last is about questions from Fritz Huta Barat, ma'am. What do you do if some of your students consistently face problem? At least that's what they claim to be in using the tools.
Well, yeah, it's something occasionally happen to my students. They mentioned that they have problem with the gadget. Yeah, sometimes I ask them to use their friend's gadget. They don't have to work on their own. They can collaborate with other students, and sometimes I give them alternative to non-technology. So instead of submitting something digitally, for example, they can just submit it through paper. They can create something with pen and paper, because technology is not always a must, right? There's always an alternative to technology. We can go back to the conventional way using pencil and paper. We cannot force them to use the technology tools due to some different aspects, like availability of the technology, internet, and the capacity of their laptop, things like that.
All right, thank you, ma'am, for the answered questions from the Mr. Fred. It has arrived at the end of the session, ma'am, because the time is over. We will thank our presenter, Mr. Mempinita, for presenting the material in a very interesting way. Hopefully, it inspires and can be applied, especially in the class. Before we leaving room Zoom, allow us to give a certificate, ma'am, to Mempinita as a form of appreciation, and thank you for being an extraordinary speaker for the webinars today. All right, Mike, this is the certification.
Thank you. Well received.
All right. Thank you for Mempinita. Hopefully we can apply and spread these informations to other. It has arrived at the end sessions. Me, Gania Salsabila Putri, as the moderator, want to apologize if there are words and behavior that are not good. I am Gania Salsabila Putri as the moderator for permission to leave. See you later. Then I will return it to Ma'am Aneta, who is the master of ceremony in this webinar. Ma'am Aretha, time is yours.
All right, thank you, Miss Gania, for leading the last sessions of our webinar today. And okay, Bapak Ibu, thank you. This is the end of our webinar today. And thank you for Pak Willy, Pak Jati, and Bu Vinita for giving us the insightful and very outstanding materials for today's international webinar. Again and again, I say thank you for Pak Willy, Pak Jati, and Bu Vinita. And I would like to say, I would like to remind you for all of the participants that the link of certificate will be end at 2 p.m. And the link of certificate you can find on the chat box. Again and again, the link of certificate will be end at 2 p.m. Thank you very much for all of the participants and see you on our next webinar. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bu Vin, Pak Willy, and Pak Jati.
Thank you very much.
See you again. Yeah.
Bu Aretha, have you taken the photo session?
Oh yeah. Yeah. We forget that we should take the photo sessions. Please open your camera, Bapak Ibu, giving your best smile because we have 9 slides. Yeah. Please open your camera, Bapak Ibu. Give your best smile, please. 1, 2. Udah? All right. 1, 2, 3, smile.
The first one. Second one. The third one. Fourth one. Next. And the last one. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bu Eka. Thank you, all of the speakers and all of the participants. See you again. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment our YouTube channel. Yeah. Yeah. See you. Bye bye.
Thank you, Pak Willy, Bu Vin, Pak Jati. Thank you very much for coming here.
Thank you, Ibu.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bu Eka.
Thank you,
Thank
Bu
you very
Eka,
much.
Mbak Aretha. Ada siapa lagi? Mas Dave, Mas Kiki.
Yeah, Mas Dave, Mas Kiki, everyone.
Was the session recorded?
Yes,
Was it
in
recorded?
our YouTube channel, Pak.
YouTube
I see.
channel.
Okay. Yeah. Bye, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Pak
you.
Willy.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much,
Pak Willy, thank you, Bu Vin.
Pak Jati, thank you.
Bye.